Chapter 90. The battle between Rei Minkai and Tatsuya Yuki had ended, but Sinman's disaster had just begun. Just a moment ago, the security guard uncle who was eager to perform meritorious deeds and leave a good impression in front of the dean had delivered the news of Sinman and Rei Minkai's arrival to the dean's desk. The dean immediately brought people to block Sinman's path. Standing at the edge of the steel pulla battle stage, Rei Minkai clearly saw Sinman's pleading gaze, but he was unable to step forward to help Sinman, because Rei Minkai himself was also entangled. Kai, can I call you like this? Since the dean already knew of Director Sinman's arrival, I'm afraid he won't let Director Sinman go anytime soon. How about you take this opportunity to visit our model department and repair the steel pulla model while you're at it? Just like how Rei Minkai received Sinman's pleading gaze, Tatsuya Yuki received the dean's pleading gaze. Therefore, Tatsuya Yuki, who understood tacitly, took advantage of the situation and sent an invitation to Rei Minkai, the person who had just fought to a draw with him. Facing Tatsuya Yuki's invitation, Rei Minkai glanced at the pirate Gouda, whose right arm was chopped off and whose waist was almost cut in two. After that, he decisively sold Sinman out. Therefore, under Sinman's helpless and resentful gaze, Rei Minkai and Tatsuya Yuki chatted happily as they put away their steel pulla models and left the stadium. Not long after, under the guidance of Tatsuya Yuki, Rei Minkai arrived at the private Holy Phoenix Academy's model department. As soon as he walked in, Rei Minkai saw a display cabinet of various steel pulla models. Jim, the Great Demon, Zagu of the UC series, as well as Kim N and M of the Seed series. In this series, the most eye-catching one was the pink Zagu that Mia, who was tricked by the Fox Chancellor to undergo plastic surgery to become Lakis Klein, used for her concert. At first glance, it seemed that the steel pulla model of this model was slightly leaning towards a John model. In particular, Zagu I, who was standing in front of Zagu I and Warrior, had a particularly strong weathering effect on his appearance, which made people notice his existence at first glance. If Rei Minkai remembered correctly, this Zagu I should have been personally made by Tatsuya Yuki. Is there a problem with this Zagu I? Tatsuya Yuki leaned against the desk and asked Rei Minkai, who was browsing through the display cases. No, it has a strong feeling. In my opinion, this Zagu I's aura is very similar to the sense of urgency on the battlefield. Rei Minkai shook his head and expressed his thoughts. Battlefield? Unbeknownst to him, Rei Minkai's casual remark had caused Tatsuya Yujo to ponder. After a while, Tatsuya Yuki spoke again. Kai, didn't you just ask me how I know about your existence? Rei Minkai nodded and waited for Tatsuya Yuki to continue. In fact, this is also related to Director Sinman. I believe that when you came in, you should have already heard the security uncle at the door mention our school's enrollment rate. Tatsuya Yuki crossed his arms in front of his chest. After thinking for a while, he continued. In fact, our school's enrollment rate is 100%. In addition to the publicly announced numbers, the remaining 10% or so of the students were admitted to a school organized by the United Nations. After saying that, Tatsuya Yuki did not forget to point his finger at the ceiling. But Rei Minkai knew that Tatsuya Yuki was not pointing at the ceiling, but higher, farther, and wider space of nothingness. The universe? Yes. In almost the same year as the invention of the Palevsky particle, the United Nations welcomed a mysterious person, and in the exchange with him, a bill was finalized. But I don't know what this bill is. I only know that since then, the world has quietly changed. And this change continued until Director Sinman appeared, and I had the opportunity to come in contact with people like you. Tatsuya Yuki spread out his hands and said with a self-deprecating smile, although the process was simplified by me a lot, it was indeed the appearance of Director Sinman. In a short time, the private Holy Phoenix Academy's enrollment rate increased to 100%, that I came in contact with these unknown changes. So that's how it is. Then, where do you want to go? Rei Minkai pointed to the sky. No, with my current state, I can't go there. Kai, I need your help. Tatsuya Yuki opened his mouth and said something that surprised Rei Minkai. What do I do for you? Fight with me. Tatsuya Yuki put the damaged Zago on the table and stared at Raymond Kai's eyes like a torch and said in a deep voice, "Kai, you should have experienced actual combat, right?" Oh, this time, Raymond Kai also became a little interested. He did indeed experience actual combat. But logically speaking, even if Tatsuya Yuki was good at playing with steel pulla models, he should not be able to come in contact with that level of the world, even if he already knew some of the secrets of this world. It's Aizoshi. Before director Simon left, he secretly appeared in front of me. He and you have a very similar smell. Perhaps it's the smell of people who came down from the battlefield. It had to be said that Tatsuya Yuki's intuition was very sharp. Rei Minkai raised his eyebrows and calmly admitted Tatsuya Yuki's statement. But he still had doubts. According to your strength, even if you directly go on the real machine training, I'm afraid it won't take much time to master the performance of the machine. Why do you have to do this? No, this is not superfluous. This is a trial and also a battle. Kai, if I can fight with you, an opponent who has been in and out of the battlefield, with steel pulla models, maybe I can learn more. Listening to Tatsuya Yuki's words, Rei Minkai made a gesture and then said, "In order to be able to adapt to the battlefield as soon as possible, even if you don't know what is on the battlefield, what is the enemy?" Yes, Tatsuya Yuki nodded. However, he picked up the surprised upper body of Jagu, put it in front of his eyes, and stared at the steel pulla model that he built with his own hands. But, at present, my favorite is still the steel pulla model. I want to really ignite the soul of steel pulla before I really set foot on the battlefield, even if I will burn out in the process. Flame. In Raymond Kai's eyes, it was as if he really saw a burning flame rising from Tatsuya Yuki's back. Good. If it's just steel pulla, I won't refuse. But then again, even if you want to get on the real machine, you can't do it here. Hee. I also know this. This world is peaceful, isn't it? Because of this, I can freely ignite my soul of steel pulla. At the end, Tatsuya Yuki once again said his Chinibi words. When Rei Minkai and Tatsuya Yuki finished this exchange, Simon was finally freed from the entanglement of the dean and the others. And the ones who rescued Simon were Merida and Euphemia, who arrived late. Sorry, it took some time to buy something for the doctor. When Euphemia saw Rei Minkai, she anxiously explained. She was afraid that Rei Minkai would be unhappy because of their late arrival. It's okay. UFFI, don't be nervous. After Rei Minkai comforted Euphemia, he nodded at Merida. Merida, thank you for rescuing Simon. When she heard Rei Minkai's words, Simon, who was annoyed by the dean, and the others immediately became unhappy. Minkai, you little bastard. If you didn't leave without permission, would I still be surrounded by the dean and the others? You can't blame me for this. After all, Yueshang classmate invited me to the model department. Don't you think so, Yueshang? Rei Minkai's soft words caused Simon's dissatisfaction to burn Tatsuya Yuki. Tatsuya Yuki was shocked and immediately smiled apologetically. Director Simon, you can't blame me. You must know that the dean has been thinking about you for a long time. If you didn't come here yourself, I'm afraid that the dean would find time to personally visit you. Hearing this, Simon helplessly sighed and gave up on pursuing Rei Minkai and Tatsuya Yuki's responsibility. She changed the topic and asked, "Isn't it just for those few spots? Is it necessary to go to this extent? Forget it. I won't talk about it. Kai, it seems that you have gained quite a lot today. Do you want to continue?" Rei Minkai raised his hand and lightly patted the waste bag that contained the Pirate Gouda X1 that had just been repaired and shook his head. That's all for today. I have some ideas about the modifications of the Pirate Gouda X1. Is that so? Then, let's split up here. Merida and I are going to buy some ingredients to prepare for tomorrow's meal. Kai, you and Euphemia can walk around by yourselves. After saying that, Simon took Merida and left the private Holy Phoenix Academy. However, why is it that no matter how Rei Minkai looked at Simon's back, he felt that Simon was making use of the time to quickly slip away? Kai, I look forward to the next battle with your steel pulla. I hope that your Pirate Gouda X1 will give me a pleasant surprise. After taking a look at Euphemia, standing beside Rei Minkai, Tatsuya Yuki tactfully found an excuse to leave. It's just the two of us left. UFFI. Rei Minkai turned his head and looked at the princess standing beside him. Yes. Kai, where are we going next? Euphemia smiled sweetly. Let's go. Let's walk around the business district and see if there are any parts one want. Chapter 91. Commercial Street. Although it wasn't the weekend, it still looked quite popular. Young men and women who were dressed fashionably were shuttling back and forth. Among them, Lei Minkai and Euphemia, who were also dressed fashionably, were one of them. After Lei Minkai's gaze wandered around the commercial street, he discovered that among the men and women coming and going, there were actually people who looked like him. Kai, that is... Euphemia also noticed the existence of those people. Yes, they are the preparatory team members, just like us. Rei Minkai withdrew his gaze to avoid looking at them for too long and causing them to be aware of the situation here. UFFI, don't worry about them for now. Let's go our own way. Rei Minkai reached out and grabbed Euphemia's hand. He pretended as if nothing had happened and blended into the crowd and walked into the commercial street. Euphemia also stopped talking when Rei Minkai suddenly grabbed her hand. She quietly clenched her right hand that was holding Rei Minkai's hand and followed behind Rei Minkai. UFFI, have you and Merida been here before? After walking for a while on the commercial street, Rei Minkai was surprised by Euphemia's silence. Shopping should be a girl's nature. Although this commercial street wasn't very prosperous, for a princess like Euphemia who stayed in the palace all year round, it should be quite attractive. However, Her Highness the Princess must have remained silent. No, it's not like that. Euphemia was shocked and quickly waved her hand. After looking left and right, her eyes lit up and she pointed at the crowd not far away and said, Kai, look, there seems to be something interesting happening over there. Rei Minkai looked in the direction of Euphemia's finger and found that the crowd was surrounding a shop with the sign Sato Model Store. From the reaction of the people who were constantly whispering, it seemed that something interesting was happening. Do you want to go take a look? Euphemia? Lei Minkai asked softly as he glanced at Euphemia, who was eager to give it a try. Yes. Euphemia nodded. Ever since Euphemia woke up here, Lei Minkai had a vague feeling that something was wrong. The third princess of the Britannia Empire was gradually disappearing and was replaced by the increasingly lively Euphemia. Rei Minkai in front and Euphemia behind. The two people relied on Rei Minkai's strong physique to squeeze a path out of the crowd. Of course, Rei Minkai forcefully squeezing through the crowd. Naturally, there was no lack of scolding. However, when the surrounding people saw the pink girl hiding behind Lei Minkai, whose every action was filled with the aura of nobility, their anger was reduced to a few murmurs before they gave up on the matter. Soon, the two people who passed through the crowd came to the open space that was being watched by the crowd. Looking around, Rei Minkai was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled. I was wondering what it was. It turned out to be the steel pull-a battle. But in the next second, Euphemia, who was protected by Rei Minkai in his arms, pointed to the 2-meter-high blackboard behind the steel pull-a battle platform and said, Kai, look at that blackboard. Together with your partner, drive the steel pull-a model to complete a dance and accept the evaluation from the audience. The one with the highest evaluation will receive a limited edition Bear Tyrant Steel pull-a model. Note, there are no mandatory requirements for the type and difficulty of the dance. After reading the text on the blackboard, Rei Minkai blinked, thinking that this was an event held by the store to gather popularity. Although the reward was not very generous in the eyes of most people, but among the steel pull-a fighters, it was an irresistible temptation. After all, it was the invincible and cute Bear Tyrant. That cute appearance, even if a woman who was not a steel pull-a fighter saw it, she would still like it. As Rei Minkai and Euphemia read the prompt text on the blackboard, a man and woman had already walked onto the steel pull-a battle platform. The rules are very simple. As long as you drive the steel pull-a model, Flash Gouda, and Nobel Gouda, complete a dance of your choice, and get the highest evaluation from the audience, You will receive a limited edition steel Pulla Bear Tyrant. The model store owner nodded to the man and woman. Then he stepped aside and guided the man and woman into the driver's seat. Are you ready? The model store owner confirmed again. The surrounding audience also applauded at this moment. Ray Minkai and Euphemia also applauded, cheering for the brave couple. The young man who looked like a steel pulla enthusiast looked at his girlfriend standing opposite him and nodded to the model store owner. Then let's begin. The battle begins. Maneuver mode. Field grassland. As soon as the steel pulla battle system started, the familiar light emitted by the Palevsky particles instantly filled the field. Then, under the young man's whisper, the model store owner skillfully turned on the sound system. The explosive music immediately bombarded the audience. Is this a street dance? Lei Minkai subconsciously said when he heard the electronic music with a strong sense of rhythm. Street dance? What kind of dance is that? Although Euphemia received the most rigorous court dance education, she knew very little about the street dance from the people. After all, as a noble royal, even if those carefully selected dance teachers knew about the existence of street dance, they would not be so bold as to teach street dance, which in the eyes of the nobles was considered treacherous in the eyes of the nobles to the Third Royal Highness. Well, you can think of it as a general term for a variety of different types of dance born in the people, based on different street culture or music styles. Look, they're starting. After Lei Minkai gave a simple explanation, he immediately got Euphemia to focus her attention on the opposite platform. As the rhythmic music sounded, Flash Gouda and Nobel Gouda, placed in the center of the stage, also moved under the control of the young couple. However, compared to the man's skillful manipulation, the woman's manipulation seemed a bit unfamiliar. Under her control, Nobel Gouda just completed the first dance move with Flash Gouda. Then with a click, it fell to the ground, and its limbs kept shaking. After many futile struggles, the woman turned around and ran in anger, causing the young man to quickly chase after her and try to please her. This scene made many onlookers laugh, but it also successfully attracted the young couple who were watching to give it a try. Suddenly, when Ray Minkai was looking at the farce caused by the young couples on the stage, he found that Euphemia was pulling the corner of his clothes. Ha! Why don't we go up and give it a try? Ray Minkai was stunned and subconsciously asked, UFFI, have you tried the steel pulla? Euphemia nodded, smiled, and said, when Merida and I went out, we tried it. It should be possible. Looking down at Euphemia's eager expression, Ray Minkai suddenly remembered that in Lu Lucio's original plot, Euphemia once drove the amphibious KMF body Portman to attack. Although there was no battle, being able to drive Portman through the woods in a short time and find Vermilion Bird, who was confronting Zero, was enough to prove Euphemia's talent. Well, let's give it a try. Ray Minkai nodded, as if he suddenly remembered something. UFFI, have you decided to dance that dance? From the performance of those people just now, the two steel pulla models seem to be a bit wrong. Euphemia's eyebrows slightly wrinkled, and after thinking for a while, her eyes lit up. That's right. Tango. Tango? Ray Minkai was puzzled and looked at Euphemia with some surprise. UFFI, have you learned tango? Will the court dance teacher let you learn this? Euphemia smiled and slyly said, I secretly learned it, but I've never really tried it. Ray Minkai silently looked at Euphemia and suddenly felt that the Euphemia in front of him seemed to be more like an ordinary girl. Okay, let's go. My Royal Highness. At the same time that the decision was made, Ray Minkai also took a step forward, left the crowd, and turned to Euphemia and issued an invitation. As the two approached the steel pulla battle platform, the surrounding audience's eyes suddenly lit up. Among them, many people recognized Ray Minkai as the culprit who forcefully squeezed through the crowd, and also recognized Euphemia as the pitiful girl. For a moment, the people who were waiting for Ray Minkai to make a fool of himself couldn't help but smile at his misfortune. What music do you want to choose? When a model shop owner saw the handsome male and beautiful female duo of Ray Minkai and Euphemia, he couldn't help but have a good impression of them and asked kindly, Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other, and Ray Minkai nodded. One step away. The model shop owner was stunned and couldn't believe what he heard. One step away? This is Tango, right? Yes, Tango. Ray Minkai confirmed. Okay, I'm looking forward to your performance. Seeing that Ray Minkai and Euphemia had made up their minds, the model shop owner couldn't say anything and turned to choose the music Ray Minkai wanted. UFFI, don't be afraid of taking the wrong step. There are no wrong steps in tango, just like life. After sending Euphemia to the steel pulla's driver's seat, Ray Minkai whispered in Euphemia's ear, Okay, I will follow your footsteps. Euphemia nodded obediently. Are you ready? The model shop owner asked. Music ready. Ray Minkai put his hands on the ball and said loudly, Let's start. The next second, the violins sounded. This violin symphony, which was obviously different from the music chosen by all the young couples before, immediately caused all the audience to exclaim. On the field, Twinkle Gowda and Nobel Gowda slowly approached each other in the violin music. With every step, Ray Minkai's heart calmed down. Although Nobel Gowda's movements were trembling, overall, it was still stable. It could be seen that Euphemia had indeed tried the steel pulla. Like sister, Ray Minkai smiled softly. Twinkle Gowda raised his hand and shook hands with Nobel Gowda, and Nobel Gowda's left hand rested on Twinkle Gowda's right shoulder, and Twinkle Gowda's right hand gently supported Nobel Gowda's back. The two Gowdas were tightly pressed together at this moment. At this moment, the violin tone changed. Twinkle Gowda stepped forward with his left foot, and Nobel Gowda's right foot also stepped back at the same time. The first step, perfect. After Ray Minkai cast a look of appreciation at Euphemia, he continued to guide Euphemia to control Nobel Gowda's next move. With Ray Minkai's guidance and Euphemia's memories of self-learning tango in the early years awakened, Twinkle Gowda and Nobel Gowda's movements gradually moved from unfamiliar to proficient. Moreover, their speed and tacit understanding also broke out to a new level the moment the piano sound joined the tango music. There was no mistake. No matter what step Twinkle Gowda took, Nobel Gowda still showed perfect tacit understanding. Side turn left 90 degrees and step together, left turn forward or turn around, both were so perfect. It was so perfect that the audience couldn't believe that this was a move that steel pulla model could do. Even the model shop owner, who was well aware of Twinkle Gowda and Nobel Gowda's state, opened his mouth wide in disbelief, his face full of surprise. Ray Minkai and Euphemia's performance made the young couples, who had failed before but were unwilling to leave, excited. Regardless of whether they were unwilling to accept their failure, now, someone had done what they couldn't do. How could this not make them surprised and excited? However, just as Twinkle Gowda and Nobel Gowda turned again and let go of each other, a crisp sound rang out. Crack! Nobel Gowda's left hand suddenly broke, causing Nobel Gowda, who was caught off guard, to fall to the ground and roll several times in a row. This sudden change was like a sudden clap of thunder that interrupted the beautiful and moving music. What's going on? How could steel pull a break so easily? In an instant, the knowledgeable audience seemed to have seen through a clue. Ray Minkai also looked at the model shop owner. Ray Minkai, who had already known that there was a clue, looked quite unfriendly. Fine sweat quietly climbed up the model shop owner's forehead. He looked and listened to more and more audience's voices and unfriendly gazes. In a hurry, he raised his right hand and shouted, First! This couple is first. Does anyone have an opinion? Suddenly, the audience was silent. Just when a model shop owner could hardly bear the pressure from the audience, applause rang out. Everyone applauded for Ray Minkai and Euphemia's victory, and at the same time, they also sent a burst of praise and blessings. This made Euphemia's little face blush. But Ray Minkai and Euphemia, who were receiving the limited edition steel pulla bear tyrant from the model shop owner, did not know that a young man and woman were smiling faintly, separated the crowd, and disappeared into the street. Ling, you seem to be very happy. Am I? You must have seen wrongly. Carmen, have you prepared Julia's gift? She's still thinking about when she was 13 years old. You actually forgot to come back and celebrate her birthday with her. Julia is only 15 years old. Why is she so vengeful? I'm her father. Who knows? Women can be very petty sometimes. Chapter 92. Ever since Euphemia got the limited edition Shionba, she had been holding it tightly in her arms as if she was holding a precious treasure. However, looking at Euphemia's face that was still filled with excitement, Lei Mingkai knew that the dance hand in hand just now had made the princess very happy. Kai, aren't we going back? After wandering around the commercial street, Euphemia found that Lei Mingkai didn't go home. We won't go back for the time being. After all, I haven't bought the parts one want yet. Lei Mingkai nodded and said his reason. In the event just now, the model store owner paid a lot of money. Not only did he give the limited edition to Lei Mingkai and Euphemia, but he even offered a 20% discount for the day under the watchful eyes of the audience. As a result, the steel pulla enthusiasts who were eager to try the couple dance with Lei Mingkai and Euphemia immediately rushed to the model store and bought most of the parts in the model store without hesitation, leaving Lei Mingkai and Euphemia staring blankly. That's true. Everyone was so enthusiastic just now and bought all the parts in the model store in one go. Now that I think about it, the boss seemed to be smiling in the end. Holding the Shionba box, Euphemia tilted her head slightly in thought. That's for sure. Small profits, but quick turnover. Being able to sell out the inventory was enough to make the boss laugh for the whole night. But then again, we only had the Shionba in the end. Isn't that a bit of a loss? Lei Mingkai also thought of this, and a helpless smile appeared on his face. Is that so? It's a pity that you didn't buy the parts you wanted. No, it's okay. There's another steel Pullum model store. Lei Mingkai shook his head and didn't care much. The reason why he chose the commercial street first was because he considered Euphemia. Otherwise, going directly to Makoto Ito's steel Pullum model store would be the best and shortest choice. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Euphemia looked at the setting sun and let out a cheerful cry. She jumped a few steps away and stood in front of Lei Mingkai as she said, "Let's go, Lei Mingkai." Let's go. Create Assault Gauda Makoto Ito, who spent a lot of effort, finally made the exclusive steel Pullum model in his mind. Of course, after completing the creation of Assault Gauda, Makoto Ito couldn't wait to share this joy with his mother. However, just as he was sharing this joy with his mother, a discordant and haunting voice suddenly sounded from the direction of the door. Has it been assembled? As soon as this voice appeared, Makoto Ito felt a burst of helplessness. Ever since he was defeated by Lei Mingkai's Zaga 2, which could almost be swept into the garbage dump, Sasaki Jin, who had been pestering him, disappeared for a period of time. This allowed Azashi to spend a very peaceful time. Makoto Ito thought that the reason why Zaga Jin didn't appear in front of him was because his confidence was shattered by Lei Mingkai, making him lose interest in harassing Makoto Ito. In the end, reality gave Makoto Ito a slap in the face when he was the happiest. Zagu, compared to the listless Makoto Ito, Iori Rinko showed a welcoming smile. Obviously, Zagu-jin's attention wasn't on Iori Rinko or Makoto Ito, but on the assault Gao that Makoto Ito had placed on the cashier counter. The sharp lines, the perfect paint, and the 100% clear details made Zagu-jin fall in love with this steel Pullum model the moment he saw the assault Gao. This is the new model that was customized for the tournament, right? As expected of Makoto Ito. What a beautiful airframe. If I can control this model, even if it was the steel Pulla last time, I would be able to defeat that damn Zagu in an instant. Zagu-jin's voice was full of expectation and also full of determination. He was determined to win the assault Gao that Makoto Ito had just completed. Yes, that's right. Even though he looked the same as before, but in fact, after being defeated by Lei Mingkai with the broken Zaguai, Zaga-jin couldn't accept the fact that he was defeated by Lei Mingkai with the broken Zaguai, and only after a few days did he manage to pull himself together. Now, in order to defeat Lei Mingkai, Zaga-jin set his sights on Makoto Ito, who he had always bullied. Because he knew that if he were to fight Ray Minkai again, he must defeat him at the beginning of the battle. Otherwise, the longer the battle dragged on, the higher the chance of him being defeated. This was the conclusion that Zagajin had reflected on during this period of hiding. No, Zagajin, this model is not for you. It's mine. Makoto Ito quickly denied Zagu Jin's decision. Oomph. Is that so? Zagu Jin coldly snorted and mercilessly threw Makoto Ito's final support to the ground and ruthlessly trampled on it. Makoto Ito, with your lousy steel pulla, I'm afraid you won't even be able to pass the first round. If that's the case, why don't you let me pilot this new model? Under Zagu Jin's sarcasm, Makoto Ito followed the rules of history and fell for it. A steel pulla battle began. When Ray Minkai and Euphemia came from the commercial street to the Iori model store, the steel pulla battle between Makoto Ito and Zagajin had entered a new stage. They're already fighting? When Ray Minkai entered the store, he saw the empty cashier counter and two people standing by the glass window of the battle room. The woman should be Makoto Ito's mother, Iori Rinko. As for the man, after a few glances, Ray Minkai finally confirmed that he was the old man named Lar that he had seen in the gymnasium. Uncle Lars, nice to meet you. Ray Minkai and Euphemia walked up and greeted Lars. Oh, are you the reserve team member that Shimon brought with him? Nice to meet you. I'm Lamba Lars. Nice to meet you. The old man nodded and introduced himself after glancing at Ray Minkai and Euphemia. Nice to meet you. I'm the store manager here, Iori Rinko. Iori Rinko also stood beside Lars and nodded towards Ray Minkai and Euphemia. I'm Ray Minkai. She's Euphemia Libertania. Ray Minkai introduced himself and Euphemia and then brought the topic to the battle room. Ray Minkai's gaze passed through the glass window of the battle room and landed on the Tetrapure battle platform that was in the middle of a fierce battle. On the right was Zagajin, and as his opponent, when Ray Minkai saw the standard red hair, he knew that Makoto Ito's destined son, Lingshur, had finally appeared. At this moment, Lingshur placed both of his hands on the control ball and pulled it repeatedly, seemingly trying to find the trick to controlling the steel pulla model. Iji Chung, on the other hand, was at a loss as to what to do. As he watched the situation unfold, he tried to say something to the Ling department head. That idiot Zagujin is here again? From the looks of it, he's probably going to suffer. Ray Minkai, who knew what was going to happen, next smiled faintly. Oh, Ray Minkai, have you seen the result? Lars raised his eyebrows and looked at Ray Minkai with surprise. Yes, I've seen the result. Ray Minkai nodded his head. To be honest, I've already fought with Zagajin before. Although his technique is very good, he has a weakness: arrogance. Zagajin would often look down on opponents who were weaker than him or seem weak, and thus, he would be defeated. Is that so? Even if it's the opponent's first steel pulla battle? Lars shifted his gaze to Lingshur. Yes, if it was before he appeared, Zagajin still had a chance to defeat Makoto Ito. But after he, a red-haired boy, appeared, Zagajin no longer has any chance to defeat Makoto Ito. Ray Minkai said with an enigmatic smile, if they're defeated by Zagajin, then this world will lose a lot of fun. It was as if he was verifying the accuracy of Ray Minkai's prediction. The moment Ray Minkai finished his words, Lingshur, who was fooling around with a steel pulla model a minute ago, defeated Zagajin, who was arrogantly trying to make out his own. No! Zagujin's scream once again echoed in the battle room. At the same time, he saw Ray Minkai in the dissipating Palevsky particles, the figure that he hated so much. Damn it! Zagujin gritted his teeth and silently put away the chopped-up strongman, then turned and rushed out of the model shop. Wonderful! Ray Minkai, it's just as you expected. Simon really picked up a treasure this time. Lars praised and nodded to Iori Rinko. Boss, I'll be leaving first. Another day, I will bring my daughter, Adelia, with me. She wants a brand new steel pulla model. Okay, Mr. Lars, I'll prepare it. I hope your daughter will be satisfied by then. Finally, Lars patted Ray Minkai's shoulder and left the model shop. Ah, it's you, big brother. Makoto Ito happily pulled Lingshur out of the battle room and saw the man and woman standing next to his mother. He pointed at Ray Minkai and shouted in surprise. Era? Chung, you know each other? It was Iori Rinko's turn to be surprised. Yes, Mom. Before that, Sasaki Jin was defeated by Big Brother. Makoto Ito briefly explained what happened before to Iori Rinko, then stepped forward and handed over his assault gao to Big Brother. Look, this is my new work, Assault Gouda. Lei Minkai took a few glances, nodded, and sighed in admiration. It's a very beautiful steel Pula model. Chung, your skills are really the best. Ray Minkai said as he looked at Lingshur, who was leaning against the door. Chung, don't you want to introduce your new friend? Oh, this is Lingshur. Lingshur, this is Ray Minkai, also a steel Pula fighter. With Makoto Ito's introduction, Ray Minkai and Lingshur's eyes met in midair. In an instant, Makoto Ito felt the atmosphere change. Chapter 93. What? Do you want to use this toy for a fight? Lingshur, who was leaning against the door, looked at Ray Minkai with hostility. Lei Minkai smiled faintly and shook his head. No. Even if I want to fight with you, I don't have a suitable robot. Chung, can you help me take a look? Ray Minkai took out the damaged pirate Gouda X1 and handed it to Makoto Ito. This? How did it become like this? Big brother, did you repair the pirate Gouda X1 and use it for fight? Makoto Ito looked at the pirate Gouda X1 with its right hand broken and almost cut in half. There was an accident, but overall, it was a pretty good battle. Chung, how do you think I can fix the pirate Gouda X1? I'm not testing you. I'm just asking for your opinion. Ray Minkai said straightforwardly and waited for Makoto Ito's reply. After Makoto Ito took the pirate Gouda X1 from Ray Minkai, he walked back to the workshop while thinking. He seemed to have forgotten that Lingshur was still waiting for him. Lingshur looked at Makoto Ito, then looked at Ray Minkai. She rolled her eyes and looked at Iori Rinko. Are you the manager of this shop? I'm hungry. Hungry? Oh, it's my fault. You're Cheng's friend, right? Give me a second. Iori Rinko clasped her hands and looked at Ray Minkai and Euphemia. You're Cheng's friends too. Why don't you stay and eat with us? Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other. They realized that Euphemia was interested and nodded. I think it's fine. But before that, I need to contact Sinman so that he doesn't have to prepare our meal. Sinman? So you live with Sinman. Then I'll call Sinman now. Iori Rinko, who had made a quick decision, exploded with astonishing speed. She quickly picked up the phone and informed Sinman. Store manager, can I help you? Just as Iori Rinko was about to close the door and prepare dinner, Euphemia suddenly asked, do you want to help? Your Highness. Although Iori Rinko's intuition wasn't very outstanding, anyone with a bit of insight could tell from Euphemia's words and actions that something was amiss, especially since Euphemia's way of speaking was very different from ordinary people. Therefore, when Euphemia asked for help, Easy Rinko couldn't help but tease her. However, she didn't know that her unintentional words hit the bullseye. Can I help? I'm interested. Euphemia didn't mind Iori Rinko's teasing and asked again calmly. Okay, you're more than welcome. Iori Rinko happily agreed and turned to Makoto Ito, who was in the workshop, and shouted, Chung, don't work on the steel pulla for now. Come out and greet your friends. Then, after excusing himself to Ray Minkai and Lingshur, he went back with Euphemia to prepare dinner. I'm so sorry. Whenever I'm involved in the steel pulla, I tend to forget about other things. Makoto Ito, who realized that there were guests waiting for him, walked out of the workshop apologetically. No, it's fine. Ray Minkai waved his hand, indicating that it was fine, and walked to the cabinet filled with steel pulla models. Although he asked Makoto Ito to look after the pirate Gouda X1, Ray Minkai didn't intend to let Makoto Ito fix the pirate Gouda X1. Although he wanted to take advantage of the protagonist aura, he gave up on the idea in the end. After all, If the pirate Gouda X1 was added, Makoto Ito's attention would be diverted, and the two bodies would fall into a state of neither going up nor down. This was something Rei Minkai didn't want to see. Plus, his own body should be fixed by himself. TSK. Chung, why are you so concerned about this guy's toy? Ling Shi, who had been unhappy with Rei Minkai since he met Rei Minkai, curled his lips and looked at Makoto Ito. Steel Pulla isn't a toy. He's Rei Minkai, the big brother who helped me teach Sasaki Jin a lesson. Makoto Ito corrected Ling Shi's way of addressing the Steel Pulla and briefly mentioned the relationship between him and Rei Minkai. Sasaki Jin? The person that brat mentioned was you? Ling Shi raised his eyebrows and looked at Rei Minkai, not forgetting to mutter. He doesn't seem to be anything special. Judging a person by their appearance isn't something a mature man should do. Rei Minkai said lightly. Ling Shi stared blankly and immediately understood what Rei Minkai meant. Although he was the main character of this Steel Pulla world, Ling Shi was still a minor child, so he naturally couldn't bear to hear others say that he wasn't mature enough, especially when Ling Shi himself was a prince from another world. You really make people angry. Let's duel. Let's duel with the Steel Pulla that Chung mentioned. Ling Shi, wait. It's almost time to eat. Besides, Big Brother Steel Pulla is already damaged, so before it's repaired, it's impossible to have a Steel Pulla duel. Makoto Ito, who was standing on the side in a dilemma, quickly grabbed Ling Shi's fist, gritted his teeth, and pointed at the clock on the wall. What's there to eat? Even if he doesn't have the Steel Pulla, don't you have a lot here? Ling Si had just pointed his finger at the steel per model in the display cabinet and yelled that he wanted to fight Rei Minkai. However, a series of muttering noises suddenly became the background noise at this moment. Oh, whose stomach is protesting? Rei Minkai, who had been calm all this time, quietly smiled. You, TSK. Chung, let's go eat. However, when Makoto Ito thought Ling Shi would give in to hunger and bury his head in the food, an even bigger conflict quietly arrived. Is my food that good? Why do you have to steal it? With the help of Euphemia, Iori Rinko successfully prepared a table full of dishes. But before she could even move her chopsticks, she was shocked by the dazzling chopsticks wore in front of her. Kai! Euphemia, who was sitting next to Iori Rinko, was also shocked. Sorry, UFFI and the store manager, this is not what I expected. Rei Minkai was silent for a moment, then revealed a trace of an apologetic smile. Unexpectedly, Ling Shi, who had been waiting for a long time, snatched the fried shrimp that Rei Minkai wanted. Ling Shi, Makoto Ito, who could no longer watch, slammed the table and suddenly shouted. Ling Shi, who was still proud of himself, immediately froze. The fried shrimp that he snatched from Rei Minkai's hands also stopped in front of Ling Shi's mouth. Chung, it's okay. We were just fooling around. After all, it's a pity that Ling Shi and I can't participate in the Steel Pulla battle for the time being. Rei Minkai laughed, put down his chopsticks, and apologized to Makoto Ito and Iori Rinko. Rei Minkai's steadiness made Ling Shi's proud mood disappear without a trace. No matter how young Ling Shi was, he had already guessed that Rei Minkai was digging a hole for him. TSK, I fell into this bastard's trap again. Ling Si looked at the piece of fried prawn on his chopsticks and gritted his teeth. However, because he couldn't bear to throw down his chopsticks and leave, he threw the fried prawn into his mouth and bit it with all his might. It was as if he was throwing someone into his mouth and chewing with all his might. Hee. Ling Shi, if it's delicious, you can have another piece. You're welcome. Also, you're Rei Minkai, right? Who are you and Euphemia? As soon as Iori Rinko saw that the battle for the chopsticks had ended, she immediately used her talent skill to divert everyone's attention. Ling Shi nodded and buried his head in the food. Rei Minkai, on the other hand, looked at Euphemia as if he was asking her something. As soon as she noticed Rei Minkai's gaze, Euphemia's little face immediately turned red. Oh, it's good to be young. Unfortunately, my Chung only likes Steel Pulla. He's not popular. Iori Rinko's gaze wandered back and forth between Rei Minkai and Euphemia. She looked back at her son, shook her head, and couldn't help but sigh. Manager, Chung is still young. Besides, just because he isn't popular now doesn't mean he won't be in the future. In my opinion, Cheng's popularity at school isn't as bad as you think. Ray Minkai naturally knew why Iori Rinko sighed, so he said it with a double meaning. Is that so? Then I'll look forward to it. Chung, you have to do your best. Iori Rinko seemed to be pleasantly surprised and expectant. Makoto Ito, who didn't react to the chopsticks battle just now, nodded subconsciously. Oh, I will. Mom. After the meal, Lingshur, who had eaten his fill, was like a cat that had lost all its ambitions. Under Makoto Ito's lead, he went back to his room and threw himself on the bed, snoring. Makoto Ito couldn't help but smile bitterly. Fortunately, both Lei Mingkai and the Ling division subconsciously avoided each other after the Battle of Chopsticks, so as to avoid triggering another battle. I really lost to this guy. But now I should have time to discuss the pirate Gouda X1 with Big Brother. Makoto Ito, who was finally liberated, picked up the pirate Gouda X1 on the table and returned to the living room. Kai, and Euphemia, Jejia, sorry to keep you waiting. No, I'm sorry to trouble you. I didn't expect Lingshur to come at this time. Ray Minkai waved his hand, indicating that it was fine. Speaking of which, do you have any suggestions for the pirate Gouda X1? Before that, I want to know who you're fighting against, Kai. Although the pirate Gouda X1 was damaged, I could see from the wounds that your opponent was a very decisive and aggressive guy. Makoto Ito immediately saw the attacking style of the pirate Gouda X1's opponent. Amazing. The opponent I was fighting against was Tatsuya Yuki, your student council president, as well as the head of the model department, Tatsuya Yuki. President? How could it be him? Makoto Ito seemed to be very surprised by this answer. Are you scared? You have to know that Tatsuya Yuki was last year's regional champion. He is also a strong opponent for you in this year's world competition. Chung. So that's how it is. I'll look forward to fighting against President Yuki Chung. In the end, Makoto Ito wasn't scared, but instead a strong desire to fight arose. Seeing the excited Makoto Ito, Ray Minkai didn't want to discourage him, so he could only bring the topic back to the pirate Gouda X1. Chung, if you're good at close-range combat, I suggest that you increase the pirate Gouda X1's mobility or appropriately strengthen the pirate Gouda X1's long-range attack ability. At the very least, you should be able to obstruct the pirate Gouda X1 before it can completely close in on the enemy, or even seal off the enemy's movements. After Makoto Ito organized his words, he spoke his thoughts about the pirate Gouda X1. Is that so? That's pretty much what I thought. Chung, thank you. Your suggestion has made me determined to continue down this path. Ray Minkai solemnly thanked Makoto Ito. No, Kai, you don't have to be so polite. I'm only giving you a suggestion. Facing Ray Minkai's solemn thanks, Makoto Ito didn't know what to do. From his point of view, he had only used a few simple words to give a suggestion. He simply couldn't accept such a solemn thanks. No, it's because you're Makoto Ito. That's why I'm so serious. Ray Minkai said, then looked up at the clock on the wall. It's already very late. We should also go back. UFFI. At the door of the model store, Iori and her son stood there to send off Ray Minkai and Euphemia. Come back next time. Kai and UFFI. Iori Rinko said with a smile. Okay, thank you very much for today's hospitality. UFFI seemed to have formed a good friendship with Iori Rinko. On the other side, Ray Minkai extended his right hand to Makoto Ito. Chung, the next time we meet will be the preliminaries of the Steel Polo World Competition. I hope to see you in the Ling Division at that time. I will. Kai. Chapter 95. The next day, after enjoying the luxurious breakfast that Shinmin and Merida had prepared early in the morning, Shi Hui of the Ministry of Justice, whose holiday had ended, had a face full of happiness. She led the noisy Heros and set off for the great tower that led to Star Glory City, leaving behind a trail of dust. Ray Minkai returned to his room and placed the pirate gout X1 and various tools and materials on the table. He took out a few drawings and a pencil and started to draw on them. After the battle with Tatsuyuki, Rei Minkai had an idea. This idea was gradually perfected by Makoto Ito's suggestions. However, no matter how perfect the idea was, Rei Minkai couldn't draw a design that satisfied him. Maybe he didn't have the talent for drawing, or maybe his idea was perfect, but the reality was too harsh. Every time Rei Minkai drew a key part, the pencil in his hand would always seem to be stuck by something heavy, making Rei Minkai unable to move an inch and unable to draw the keystroke. As the rolled-up paper gradually filled the paper basket next to the desk, the time went from 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Dong dong. Someone knocked on the door. Rei Minkai, whose mind was in a mess, shook his head. After shaking off his scattered thoughts, he said with a slightly hoarse voice, "Come in." "Kai, are you busy?" As the door was opened, Euphemia peeked her head out from the crack in the door and looked inside the room. Let's rest for a while." Rei Minkai raised his hand and patted his head, then looked at the time. "It's already this time. UFFI? You didn't go out with Merida?" According to Euphemia's schedule, she should be out with Merida today. "No, Merida and Simon have something to deal with, so I have time to stay at home today. Moreover, I saw that you didn't come down to eat just now, so I took the initiative to bring the food up for you," Euphemia said as she pushed open the door and showed the tray in her hand to Rei Minkai. "Really? How timely. UFFI, thank you. I'm so busy that I'm dizzy." When Rei Minkai saw the food on the tray, his stomach, which didn't know what hunger was, began to protest. "Hee. Then why aren't you coming over to eat?" Euphemia gently smiled, took a few steps forward, and placed the dishes on the coffee table. "All right." Rei Minkai nodded. He left the desk and sat down beside the coffee table, opposite Euphemia. "Come on, go ahead and eat. I've already heated up the food." Just by looking at the steam rising from between the dishes, one could tell that Euphemia had put in a lot of effort. Rei Minkai, whose stomach was protesting, no longer dilly-dally, picked up the chopsticks and began to eat. Sitting across from him, Euphemia watched Rei Minkai waving his chopsticks, constantly putting food into his mouth, and couldn't help but slightly raise the corner of her mouth. Rei Minkai nodded, put the flying backpack in his hand on the coffee table, looked at Euphemia, and said, "UFFI, first draw the general outline of this flying backpack, then modify it according to the blueprint I described and perfect it." Although Rei Minkai's words didn't make Euphemia understand immediately, Euphemia's fighting spirit was still aroused. She sat on the coffee table, took the paper and pen from Rei Minkai's hand, and began to copy the purple-red flying backpack. After a few minutes, Euphemia put down the pen and showed her copy to Rei Minkai. "Kai, I'm done." Rei Minkai looked and couldn't help but sigh, as expected of the third princess. Amazing. It seems that giving the design to UFFI was the right choice. "Of course." Euphemia nodded with a smile. "Then let's start." Rei Minkai's gaze left the clear outline on the paper, the clean drawing, and looked at Euphemia's eyes and said, "Okay, first, let's start with the head." Under Rei Minkai's description, with Euphemia's skillful drawing skills, Linley could not help but wonder. Under the joint efforts of the two, the design in Rei Minkai's mind was quickly born in Euphemia's hands. "It's done." Euphemia slowly breathed a sigh of relief and handed the completed design to Rei Minkai. Rei Minkai took the design and scanned it back and forth. Between the drawings, the MA-type flying backpack depicted from multiple angles appeared in front of Rei Minkai's eyes. A sharp beak, wide and hard steel wings, and the extremely sharp eagle claws under the abdomen. Finally, there were 6 thrusters arranged neatly behind the steel wings from left to right. This was the flying backpack system designed for the pirate Gout X1 in Rei Minkai's imagination. "Isn't this the Steel Eagle?" Euphemia looked at Rei Minkai's eyes that were getting more and more satisfied. When she felt happy, she also asked the question in her heart. "Yes, it's the Steel Eagle. UFFI. When you think of pirates, what do you think of?" Ray Minkai smiled and asked. Euphemia tilted her head slightly and fell into deep thought. Pirates? The ship flying on the sea, the fierce crew, and the talkative parrot, or, thinking of this, Euphemia's eyes lit up. It's the Flying Eagle. Yes, the Flying Eagle. Although the Flying Eagle is rarely seen on a pirate ship, some pirates with unique hobbies take pride in raising the Flying Eagle. Ray Minkai said with a smile. So, you plan to design this steel wing for the pirate gal, the X1? Euphemia gradually thought of why Ray Minkai made such a design. Yes. In addition to providing the pirate Gauda X1 with a convenient weapon mounting platform, it can also allow the pirate Gauda X1 to move at high speed and get strong and powerful support when fighting. So that's how it is. So, you use the Justice Gauda's flying backpack as a basic product. Euphemia put down the pencil in her hand and picked up the flying backpack on the coffee table. She began to compare the design that had already been finalized. That's it. UFFI, you've really helped me a lot. Now, I can start to modify the Pirate Gauda X1 according to this design. Then, I'll stay here and help you. Can I? Of course. UFFI. As the saying goes, a man and woman working together is not tiring. When a beautiful woman is beside you, whispering to you while helping you make the model of the steel pulla, you can't feel the passage of time. Until the sun set in the west, Sinman and Merida came back and knocked on the door to inform the two to go down for dinner. Ray Minkai and Euphemia finally recovered from making the model of the steel pulla. Is it done? Euphemia looked at the steel eagle in Ray Minkai's hands that she had helped from the design to the finished product and softly asked, Yes, it's just the final step of the coloring process. UFFI, this is the result of our hard work. Yes. When the afterglow of the setting sun scattered on Euphemia's small face, Ray Minkai suddenly felt that the current Euphemia was more beautiful than ever. Chapter 96. On the table that had been cleared, a brand new steel pulla model was placed on the table, under the scrutiny of Sinman and Merida. This eagle looks like it's made with great care, but other than that, I can't see anything else. After all, I'm just a layman when it comes to steel pulla combat. Sinman looked up and down at the steel eagle, scratched the back of her head, picked up the teacup in front of her, and slowly drank the digestive tea. Don't make it difficult for my father. At most, he can barely match the steel pulla model. After clearing the dishes, Merida sat in her seat, looked away from the steel eagle, and fell on Ray Minkai and Euphemia. You guys made this together? Well, the design was drawn by UFFI. Ray Minkai nodded. Not bad, whether it's the steel eagle or the two of you. Merida nodded with appreciation and then asked, Does this steel eagle have a name? Name? Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other and shook their heads. I haven't thought about it yet. Is that so? Then, are you interested in testing it? Merida added. Steel pulla combat. Now, Ray Minkai looked at the time, and the needle had already passed 8 o'clock. At this time, there were not many steel pulla combat systems that could provide Ray Minkai and the others with the opportunity to test the Steel Eagle body. If it's steel pulla combat, we still have a complete set of systems at home, right? Merida. Simon put down the teacup and thought. If she remembered correctly, since half a year ago, when most of the team members went out to perform missions, the steel pulla combat system that they often used as a punching bag was shelved. Yes, I remember that it's in the first utility room, right? Dad. Merida nodded. When the others were still there, Merida also participated in the steel pulla combat. Compared to the tense nerves on the battlefield, the steel pulla combat allowed Merida and the others to relax and train their combat skills to a certain extent. Yes, it's in the first utility room. Shall we go now? It's a good opportunity for you to exercise and digest. No matter how Lei Minkai looked at it, the way Shinman was holding the teacup reminded him of how the elders in his previous life would hold the teacup in their hands like this after a meal. The elders would all hold the teacup in their hands like this as they passed the time. Let's go. Kai, I want to see how strong the mech we built together is. Euphemia, whose interest had been piqued, quietly reached out to hold Lei Mingkai's hand under the table. Well, okay. Ray Mingkai nodded. However, when Ray Mingkai was about to go back and take out the repaired pirate Gouda X1, he suddenly stopped. Merida, what is your steel pull model? For some reason, Ray Mingkai suddenly felt that something was wrong. Lei Mingkai's sixth sense was telling him that there was something wrong. If this continues, I'm afraid they will encounter a very bad disaster. Facing Ray Mingkai's doubts, Merida just smiled softly and said lightly, "When the time comes, you will know. Besides, if you have also seen UC0096, you should also know what my body is." At this moment, her words were shocking. Lei Mingkai was stunned for a long time before he regained his senses. After all, this is the steel Pulla model world. Sinmin and Merida, who live here, of course, have the opportunity to come into contact with various works about their fate. What's wrong? Are you scared? I thought you had guessed it a long time ago. Shimon picked up the cup and slowly took a sip from it. I should have thought of it earlier. It's just that I haven't fully accepted it yet. After all, compared to me, you guys seem to be more awkward. Ray Mingkai smiled bitterly and shook his head. Awkward? Sinmin was silent for a moment, then nodded in agreement. There seemed to be some sadness on her face. It is indeed awkward. I didn't expect that in the original world, Merida and I would have such an experience. The more I think about that experience, the more I cherish the time I have now. While speaking, Sinmin put down the cup and clapped her hands. Okay, now is not the time to talk about this. Merida, go get your steel Pulla model. I will go prepare the steel Pulla battle system. And, Kai, UFFI, I will go first. Merida's face seemed to have a trace of sadness, but she quickly returned to her room. Then, Lei Mingkai and Euphemia, who had returned to their room to retrieve the pirate Gundam X1, walked along the corridor and arrived at Storage Room 1. Although this place was called a utility room by Sinmin and Merida, when Ray Mingkai and Merida walked in, they discovered that this utility room was much bigger than their room, at least twice as big. However, if it was the size of their room, it would probably be able to fit the steel Pulla battle system. Sinmin and Merida were already waiting for Ray Mingkai and Euphemia to arrive. Kai, UFFI, I will be the referee for this battle. Is there any problem? Sinmin took the initiative to speak and took over the position of referee. No problem. Ray Mingkai nodded. Then, Sinmin looked at Euphemia and made a suggestion. UFFI, why don't you be Kai's assistant? Me? Euphemia did not react. And that's good. UFFI, although the eagle can be controlled by AI, Sinmin's suggestion is very good. If you can control the eagle, I am afraid it will be better for the AI. Ray Mingkai thought for a moment and figured out what Sinmin's suggestion was. I'll give it a try then. Euphemia had also thought it through. She stood beside Lei Mingkai and got ready. Then let's begin. Steel Pulla battle begins. Sinmin raised her hand and waved down, announcing the start of the steel Pulla battle between Ray Mingkai and Merida. Please set up GP base. The instant the steel Pulla battle system's electronic voice rang out, the Palevsky particle's buzzing sound reverberated in the spacious utility room. Palevsky particle has begun to disperse. Battlefield 1 universe. The instant the Palevsky particle completely constructed the steel Pulla battle terrain, Ray Mingkai saw it. He saw the steel Pulla model in Merida's hand. It was the NT model from UC0096, Kshatriya. It really is Kshatriya. Merida. Ray Mingkai's voice traveled across the steel Pulla battlefield and rang in Merida's ears. Of course. But if you think Kshatriya is still UC0096 Kshatriya, then you'll lose miserably. Merida chuckled, her words full of confidence. That's only natural. No one dares to look down on the combination of Marita Kurwa and Kshatriya. Ray Mingkai shook his head, indicating that he did not look down on Kshatriya at all. Please place the steel Pulla model. Under the steel Pulla battle system's prompt, Ray Mingkai and Merida successively placed their models in attack position. Then, Ray Minkai turned his head to look at Euphemia, whose hands were already on the virtual keyboard, and said seriously, "It's about to begin. UFFI, are you ready?" "I'm ready, Kai." Euphemia's small face was filled with determination. Then Ray Minkai, Euphemia, Pirate Gouda X1, Steel Eagle, attack. As soon as he finished speaking, the Pirate Gundam X1 and Steel Eagle shot out one after another. "Let's begin. Marita Korwa, Kshatriya, attack." On the other side, Kshatriya also charged into the void battlefield in a flash. Ray Minkai's vision went dark at first, then it immediately brightened. Everywhere he looked, there were large and small floating rocks, as well as devastated, scarred warships and the wreckage of MS. This is the submerged reef sector. Ray Minkai was no stranger to this familiar scene. This was a scene that appeared in 0083. It was the secret base of Sima, Katoa, and the other remnants of Jiwang. Is it luck? Kshatriya's performance was indeed incomparably powerful. However, Kshatriya's most powerful floating cannons would be greatly disrupted in this sector filled with submerged reefs and wreckage. In addition, Pirate Gouda, as a highly mobile mech, could use the surrounding submerged reefs and wreckage to move at high speed. However, it was still unknown what effect the current battlefield would have on both sides. "Kai!" Euphemia's voice came. Ray Minkai pulled with his right hand, and Pirate Gouda X1 rose into the air. Immediately after, a black shadow appeared under Pirate Gouda X1's feet, catching Pirate Gouda X1 firmly. Flying Eagle is in good condition. Activating the warning system. "Kai, we need to move at full speed." Euphemia's hands quickly tapped on the virtual keyboard, and one command after another was entered into the Steel Eagle. In the blink of an eye, the thrusters between the Steel Eagle's wings were at full power, and Pirate Gouda X1 quickly shuttled through the densely packed sector like a meteor. "It feels pretty good." As the referee, Simon naturally saw the performance of Pirate Gouda X1's new equipment, the Steel Eagle. Although only its maneuverability was displayed, it could be used to estimate the extent of the Steel Eagle's other capabilities. Then, let's see how far Merida can push the Steel Eagle's capabilities. Simon pondered for a moment and continued to look at the steel pull of battlefield, while Ray Minkai and Euphemia were using this opportunity to test the Steel Eagle's capabilities. On the other side of the submerged reef sector, a huge figure was standing on the wreckage of a Magellan warship, silently looking in a certain direction in the submerged reef sector. Testing the body? Very good. Let's say hello first. Floating cannons. Merida's voice suddenly became cold, and Kshatriya's 4 large shoulder plates opened at the same time and released the 24 floating cannons hidden within. In the next second, the floating cannons turned into flashes of light and disappeared among the countless rocks and wreckage. Chapter 97. The feeling of being electrocuted suddenly came. Ray Minkai simply didn't have time to ponder over the reason for this, as he immediately shouted, "UFFI, split up, everyone retreat." As soon as his voice sounded, Pirate Gouda X1 leapt from the back of the Steel Eagle. Quickly turning around, he quickly stepped on the crushed rocks under his feet and flew a distance away with all his might. In this short moment of effort, several rays of light suddenly appeared from the shadows of the surrounding crushed rocks and debris, narrowly brushing past Pirate Gouda X1's feet, shattering the crushed rocks that Pirate Gouda X1 had used as leverage. These are floating cannons. UFFI, careful. These attacks aren't something those KMF mechs you're familiar with can do. Ray Minkai immediately realized the true identity of the source of the attack. While quickly reminding UFFI to pay attention to the unpredictable floating cannons, he controlled Pirate Gouda X1 to charge into an area where crushed rocks and debris were even more concentrated. Only an area with a lot of debris could greatly disrupt Kshatriya's floating cannons. However, to what extent it could do, it would depend on Merida's strength. Regarding this point, Ray Minkai didn't have a clue. because the Marita Courroix standing in front of him wasn't the Marita Courroix he was familiar with in the UC-0096 unicorn. Instead, it was a Marita Courroix who had been influenced by the Forerunners, who had been active in the Z era until now. Just thinking about the bitter battle between the Z era's titans, Aogu, and Axis, one could understand what kind of existences the veterans who had survived until now were. Whoa! Suddenly, Pirate Gouda X1, who had just swept past the enormous crushed rock in front of him, suddenly stopped. A blazing ray of light swept past Pirate Gouda X1's chest armor without warning, striking the enormous crushed rock beneath Pirate Gouda X1's feet. Boom! Amidst the explosion, the Gundam X1 that was blasted away by the sand and pebbles flapped its cloak as it swiftly hid in the shadows amidst the flying sand and pebbles. UFFI. Be careful. Understood. Euphemia's little face was solemn and cautious. UFFI was well aware of Rei Minkai's reminder. Unlike the few but fatal sneak attacks that Pirate Gouda's X1 encountered, the Steel Eagle she controlled encountered attacks that were terrifyingly concentrated close to a torrential storm. There were at least 20 flashes of light flying around the Steel Eagle's shadow, constantly looking for an opportunity to launch wave after wave of attacks at the Steel Eagle. It was as if the waves of the sea were crashing against the shore. Right now, Euphemia no longer had any thoughts of meeting up with Pirate Gouda X1 as soon as possible. She only did her best to luckily escape from this wave of attacks. Over there. Suddenly, a piece of about 80 meters tall and 30 meters wide steel wreckage appeared in front of the Steel Eagle. It was surrounded by no less than 10 pieces of steel wreckage. Even though Euphemia couldn't see the true appearance of this steel wreckage, it didn't prevent her from realizing that this was a good opportunity to evade the floating cannons chasing after her. In the blink of an eye, Euphemia linked her hands together and issued a series of commands. The Steel Eagle that was currently evading attack from all directions exploded with all its thrusters. In the blink of an eye, the Steel Eagle that was advancing at full speed left the floating cannons behind it. After a few turns, it plunged into the huge steel wreckage. Oh, not bad. Looks like you've already seen through the weakness of the floating cannons. Very good. Merida saw that Kshatriya's floating cannons had been thwarted and didn't get angry. Instead, she praised. After all, this was only a battle between models of steel pulla. Even though, for veterans like Merida who had been in and out of the battlefield for a long time, it was just a casual game, they were still limited by it. For example, Merida's own NT ability couldn't be fully displayed in a battle between models of steel pulla. Otherwise, even if Kshatriya's first wave of floating cannons had been disrupted by the numerous debris, Rei Minkai and Euphemia wouldn't have been able to sense the slight killing intent and thus evade the attack. Like a swallow returning to its nest, the floating cannons, which had expended a considerable amount of energy, appeared from the gaps between the rubble and wreckage. They returned to the sockets of the 4 shoulder plates of Kshatriya in an orderly manner. Moving her gaze, Merida examined the status of the floating cannons before pushing with both hands. Kshatriya immediately activated its thrusters and took off from Magellan's wreckage. With a turn, it had already charged into the rubble. Rei Minkai and Euphemia, who were able to catch a breather from the floating cannon's attack, once again met up. This time, their expressions became particularly cautious. In addition to Rei Minkai's pair of eyes that were constantly paying attention to their surroundings, Euphemia was also quickly adjusting the warning system of the Steel Eagle. During the floating cannon's attack, just now, the Steel Eagle's warning system didn't play any role. What allowed them to successfully evade the floating cannons was Rei Minkai's extremely sensitive intuition towards danger. This was something that Euphemia, who had drawn the blueprint of the Steel Eagle, was extremely dissatisfied with. The Steel Eagle was a supporting equipment for the Pirate Gouda X1. If the warning system, this crucial function, couldn't be activated, then the Steel Eagle would undoubtedly be a failure. For Euphemia, who was collaborating with Rei Minkai to create the steel pulla model for the first time, this was undoubtedly a huge blow. Euphemia's thoughts quickly turned. When she was the third princess of Britannia, she was more concerned with the relationship between the empire and the people. But now, Euphemia Britannia was thinking about how to help Rei Minkai obtain victory in this steel pulla battle in the shortest time possible. Beep beep. Suddenly, the Steel Eagle's warning system issued an ear-piercing alarm. Hearing this alarm, Euphemia's eyes lit up, and she promptly shouted, "Minkai, coming!" Just as UFFI's voice reached Rei Minkai's ears, a small sun rose from the dark shadow above the pirate Gao de X1's head. Wong! It was a light beam. It was the light emitted by the large beam cannon. The pirate Gao de X1 stepped forward, and the X-type thruster on its back immediately ejected a dazzling light, sending the pirate Gao de X1 flying a large distance in the blink of an eye. The Steel Eagle beside the pirate Gao de X1 did the same, but Euphemia's choice was the opposite of the pirate Gao de X1's. Boom! Once again, just like before, the rock that the pirate Gao de X1 had used as a foothold for the pirate Gao de X1 reached the end of the road and was shattered by the light beam attack from the shadows. Kshatriya! The large beam cannon's light gradually faded, revealing the huge steel body hidden in the shadows. Kshatriya! The Kshatriya driven by Merida finally appeared in front of Rei Minkai. Although the Kshatriya in front of him was a steel pulla model, it still gave Rei Minkai an indescribable feeling. "I'm right here. Use all your strength and attack." Merida's cold voice sounded. Rei Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other and nodded together. In the next moment, the pirate Gao de X1, who was still moving at high speed, stepped on the warship wreckage not far ahead. The pirate Gao de X1's speed once again broke through, turning into a sharp arrow as it charged towards the Kshatriya. Suddenly, a weak light quickly condensed in front of the Kshatriya's chest. It was the large beam cannon. Rei Minkai's gaze focused, and a dignified expression appeared on his face. Boom! That thick beam that could not be considered unfamiliar rose up, and in a short moment, occupied Rei Minkai's vision. Just as the beam was about to hit the pirate Gao de X1, Rei Minkai's eyes flashed with a cold light, and his left hand suddenly pulled back. The X-type propulsion nozzles on the pirate Gao de X1's back suddenly tilted to the left, and at maximum power output, the pirate Gao de X1 was forcibly pushed away from the Kshatriya's large beam cannon's firing axis. The light faded. The pirate Gao de X1's advance was not obstructed, and instead charged closer to the Kshatriya. The cloak fluttered, and a jet black muzzle was aimed at the Kshatriya. Wong! 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 3 consecutive shots. The pirate Gao de X1 raised the beam rifle that it was equipped with and directly fired 3 consecutive shots at the Kshatriya. But this seemingly sudden attack was easily dodged by the Kshatriya. But Rei Minkai did not care, because his goal was not to rely on these 3 consecutive shots to defeat the Kshatriya, but to use these 3 consecutive shots to force the Kshatriya away, so that the Kshatriya could not continue to stay in place and use the large beam cannon without restraint. Immediately after, Rei Minkai's sharp eyes noticed that the 4 shoulder plates of the Kshatriya seemed to show signs of opening. Floating cannon. This word flashed through his mind, and Rei Minkai's right hand immediately turned, and his index finger pressed on the equipment slot that had stopped rotating. The claw device on the pirate Gao de X1's waist immediately turned 55 degrees, and the claw that had been ready to fire shot out. Unfortunately, sound could not be transmitted in the universe. Otherwise, Merida would have heard the wind whistling from the claw. Even so, Merida could still sense the threat that the claw posed to the Kshatriya. The activation of the shoulder plate was still ongoing, but now was not the best time to release the floating cannon. Thus, the mechanical arm hidden within the shoulder plate quickly activated, brandishing its beam saber to block the forward path of the hook claw. Schwa! The beam sword flashed, and unexpectedly did not cut down the incoming claw. Merida focused her eyes, and discovered that the claw that should have been cut in half by the beam sword actually turned a corner, bypassing the beam sword, and continued to attack the Kshatriya from the side. And at the end of the steel cable that was linked to the claw, the pirate Gauda X1's left hand, which had been hidden behind the cloak, quietly pressed down on the steel cable and used an almost imperceptible movement to influence the direction of the claw's movement. Beautifully done, Kai. Merida noticed the strange reason why Hook Claw was able to avoid the beam sword. Thanks for the praise. Ray Minkai replied indifferently. But don't think that this will be enough to defeat the Kshatriya. Although Merida had seen through the strange attack of the Hook Claw, the moment she saw through it, the incoming Hook Claw was cut off by a beam sword from Kshatriya's other mechanical arm. Next, the real show. Chapter 99. The chase between the pirates and the Kshatriya continued. The Kshatriya was in front, the pirates behind. The two constantly shuttled back and forth through the rubble and wreckage that covered the entire region, constantly chasing each other. Sometimes they would engage in close-range combat, and sometimes they would use the surrounding rubble to open up a distance for long-range attacks. Fortunately, because this was a high-speed chase, the Kshatriya's floating cannons were temporarily sealed. The main firepower the Gundam X-1 was facing right now was the Vulcan cannon on the chest of the Kshatriya, as well as the Mega particle cannon hidden in the shoulder armor and other conventional weapons. Therefore, even if the situation was fraught with danger, the Gundam X-1 could still rely on the terrain advantage provided by the surrounding rubble to continue the pursuit. A light suddenly appeared in front of Ray Minkai's eyes. He immediately pressed a button subconsciously, shooting out Pirate Gauda X-1's last hook, which deeply embedded itself into the rubble not far away. At the critical moment, Pirate Gauda X-1 was pulled away from the threat of the beam attack. Well done! Seeing Pirate Gauda X-1 once again use its hook to escape from the Kshatriya's attack, Merida once again exclaimed in admiration. Although she had seen many people use Pirate Gauda, there weren't many who could use Pirate Gauda X-1's hook so flexibly like Ray Minkai. Now that she thought about it, when Ray Minkai had shown them the almost completed Pirate Gauda X-1, she seemed to have already seen that the hook on Pirate Gauda X-1's waist had been tampered with, showing signs of modification. Is it for the purpose of nailing it to an object? Merida watched Pirate Gauda X-1 continuously use its hook to perform various extreme maneuvers, becoming more and more certain of this conjecture. However, this didn't mean that Merida couldn't do anything about it. Kshatriya's figure moved, disappearing into the pile of rubble in the blink of an eye, making the Pirate Gauda X-1 unable to capture his tracks. Ray Minkai's face darkened. He had a bad premonition. It was as if something incredible was about to happen. Suddenly, there was a flash of light in the darkness. Beam cannon. Ray Minkai's heart was alarmed, as he hastily controlled Pirate Gauda X-1 to retreat. Then he unceasingly made use of his hooked claws to maneuver around the large and small wreckage at various angles. He attempted to cleave apart the incomparably dangerous beam cannon attack that Ray Minkai felt. Boom! The vacuum of the universe was silent. However, Ray Minkai heard the rumbling sound of a torrent of particles that was enough to erase the rubble and wreckage when the beam cannon was fully launched. Amidst the light of the particle torrent, gravel of all sizes shattered. The wreckage of the warship floating in the void melted and evaporated. The continuous explosions chased after the Pirate Gauda X-1's figure, like a pack of hungry wolves that had seen meat. They tenaciously bit down on the Pirate Gauda X-1's footsteps, not daring him to stop for even a moment. When the Pirate Gauda X-1 only had small pieces of rubble and rubble left behind, the beam cannon attack that was like a death sentence finally faded away. In a short span of a few breaths, there was no longer any cover between Kshatriya and the Pirate Gauda X-1. Immediately after, the instant he saw the Pirate Gauda X-1's figure, Kshatriya's four pauldrons slowly opened. Bolts of lightning flew out from the pauldrons one after another, leaving behind a white trail as they attacked the Pirate Gauda X-1. This time, you have nowhere to run. Merida smiled faintly. However, Merida's heart suddenly felt a sense of danger. Kshatriya immediately activated his thrusters, forcibly pushing his huge body back in 1 second, completing an emergency retreat maneuver. Swoosh! Almost at the same time, two dark green beams brushed past Kshatriya from above, instantly disappearing into the boundless space. This might seem a little poetic, but in reality, if Kshatriya had dodged half a second slower, he would have been hit by these two sudden beam attacks. Above, Merida narrowed her eyes, and half of the floating cannon that was pouncing toward the pirate Gao, the X1, actually split off and rushed above Kshatriya. UFFI, be careful. Seeing this, Ray Minkai hurriedly warned. As it turned out, it was the Steel Eagle controlled by Euphemia that had launched a surprise attack on Kshatriya. Previously, during the battle between the pirate Gauda X1 and Kshatriya, Euphemia had not been in a hurry to launch an attack. Instead, she had been waiting for a suitable opportunity. This was also secretly instructed by Ray Minkai. Euphemia was no stranger to the battle between the KMF bodies, but she knew very little about the MS body, which was much larger than the KMF body, and even had a wider range of battle terrain and complexity. Now, such a rare opportunity to use Marita, Kurwa, and Kshatriya as a blueprint for understanding and reference, Ray Minkai naturally would not let go of the opportunity to let Euphemia stay aside and observe. Through the close and distant battle between the pirate Gauda X1 and Kshatriya, the intense chase, and the various factors of the universe environment, Euphemia finally had a general understanding of the situation. At the same time, she also saw that if Kshatriya wanted to release the weapon that Ray Minkai had turned into a floating cannon, then it would have to enter a state where it could remain as still as possible. This was the best opportunity for the Steel Eagle to enter the battle. However, even if Euphemia's prediction and actions were not wrong, she still did not have enough understanding of an NT pilot like Merida. However, this could not be helped. After the Steel Eagle's attack failed, it quickly retracted the two beam cannons on its shoulders. While accelerating to dodge, it supplemented it with irregular movements, trying its best to prevent the floating cannon from locking onto the Steel Eagle. Good reaction, but still too inexperienced. Merida was very satisfied with Euphemia's reaction, but Euphemia was indeed too inexperienced. Although Euphemia had good KMF piloting skills in her original world, the battlefield in front of her was the universe where anything could happen. In the darkness, a floating cannon quietly emerged from the darkness and instantly locked onto the Steel Eagle's irregular movements. Buzz! At this moment, a beam of light erupted from the floating cannon's muzzle, crossing the void and heading straight for the Steel Eagle's head. If it hit, the Steel Eagle would definitely lose its head and even its ability to continue fighting. At this critical moment, a black line appeared on the Steel Eagle's body. This black line actually pierced through the Steel Eagle's entire body from head to toe and then split apart. The moment the floating cannon's beam of light struck the Steel Eagle's head, the black line actually split the Steel Eagle in the middle, thus dodging the floating cannon's beam attack. Moreover, this was not the end. The two halves of the Steel Eagle did not merge back together. Instead, they activated their respective thrusters, and with a flip of their body, they sped up and charged towards the pirate Gao de X1. This strange situation caused Merida to be slightly surprised, but she quickly figured out the crux of the matter. Is this armed transformation? In her confusion, the floating cannon's attack weakened. As mentioned before, this battle was to test the Steel Eagle's capabilities. Before her eyes, the Steel Eagle had already begun to display its capabilities. Under Merida's attentive gaze, as it approached the pirate Gao de X1, the two halves of the Steel Eagle's body began to transform. From the vigorous bird's body, it rapidly folded inwards, retracting its steel wings and adjusting its body. It transformed into an eagle's head at the front and steel wings at the back. It was a rectangular steel construct with a slightly irregular aura. Then, the two transformed Steel Eagle steel constructs simultaneously landed on the pirate Gao de X1's left and right forearms, connecting with the beam shield's output port. Oh, long-range armed transformation? Large-scale beam weapon? Merita's interest was piqued. No, it can't really be considered a long-range weapon. However, I'll let you have a look, Merita. Ray Minkai shook his head and nodded towards Euphemia's portrait. His right hand, that was placed on the control sphere, suddenly turned, and the moment the arm transformation interface stopped at the last slot, he forcefully pressed down. Merita, take this. Holy Beheading Greatsword. Boom. Only to see the pirate, Gao, the X1 raise both of his hands. And in the instant his palms clasped together, two extremely frightening particle beams suddenly gushed out from the eagle's beak. They intertwined with each other and tumbled into the deep void. In just a short few seconds of effort, the frightening particle torrent that rose from the pirate Gao, the X1's hands, almost broke through the upper limit of the steel Pulla combat system, wantonly spreading its dazzling light all around. This is the star beheading sword. How is this possible? The pirate Gouda X1 shouldn't have this kind of arm transformation. Standing at the side, Simmons stared wide-eyed at the dazzling light that rose from the pirate Gouda X1's hands. No, this is your imagination. This should be the Steel Eagle's true strength. Kai. Merita didn't feel surprised at all. If the Steel Pulla combat's primary factor was the degree of craftsmanship of the Steel Pulla model, then the second factor was before and after the creation of the Steel Pulla model. To what extent could the creator's imagination of the Steel Pulla model reach? Only after these two conditions were met would the Steel Pulla fighter's technique be considered. Thus, Merita, who understood these principles, wasn't surprised when she saw the pirate Gao, the X1, suddenly bring out the star beheading sword. I've been underestimated. Kshatriya. Merita lightly laughed and raised her head to look at Ray Minkai, whose face was half covered by Palisky particles. Come, Kai. Me and Kshatriya are right here. Use your strongest attack to attack me. Okay, UFFI. Let's go. Yes. Pirate Gauda's eyes lit up as he raised his beam sword that almost pierced through the horizon created by the Steel Pulla combat system and slashed at Kshatriya with all his might. In an instant, the entire reef sector was illuminated by the light emitted by the super large sword swung by Pirate Gauda X1. Kshatriya, like the surrounding rubble and debris, they disappeared into the void. But a red light suddenly appeared behind Pirate Gauda X1. Kai, UFFI, you've done well. But it's over. A flickering red particle beam, sword extended from his back, and slashed across Pirate Gauda X1's neck. And the hand holding the red particle beam sword was Kshatriya. Accurately speaking, Kshatriya was no longer green from before. Instead, his entire body was covered in red armor, and at the top of his four shoulder pads were four cone-shaped engines that constantly spewed out dark green particles. Chapter 100. Trans-Am. Seeing the GN solar furnace on Kshatriya's shoulder armor, Lei Minkai subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. He thought his imagination was crazy enough. He didn't expect Merita's imagination to be even crazier than his. However, when he recalled Sinman's description of what happened when she met Merita, Ray Minkai remembered that Sinman mentioned that Kshatriya was equipped with GN particle tanks as a transitional experiment. Was this the prerequisite for Kshatriya equipped with 4 GN solar furnaces? That's right. Kshatriya was equipped with a new type of internal GN solar furnace. At that critical moment, I activated the GN solar furnace and activated Trans-Am. Merita nodded and briefly introduced Kshatriya's situation. Is that so? Lei Minkai glanced at Kshatriya, who was now wearing red armor, and released the control sphere. He spread out his hands and said, "We lost." Euphemia nodded, but she wasn't dejected. On the contrary, her eyes were still very bright. This was Euphemia's first experience in space combat. Although this first experience in space combat wasn't real, it gave Euphemia an unprecedented sense of novelty. This also reduced the sense of defeat by quite a bit. The battle is over. Merita Korwa wins. Following Simmons' announcement, the steel pull-up battle system gradually stopped operating. The Steel Eagle is very good. Merida walked to the center of the steel pull-up battle platform and praised the Steel Eagle parked next to Pirate Gout Daz X1. Thank you. This is the work UFFI and I made together. Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other and nodded. Very good. Guy, UFFI, your efforts are better than I thought. Shinman applauded as he took a step forward. He stood in front of Lei Minkai and praised him. Thank you. Actually, I just drew the design according to Guy's idea. Euphemia smiled sweetly. Even if that's the case, I can't deny your efforts. UFFI. Merida shook her head and gave Euphemia a look of praise. She raised her hand to pick up the Steel Eagle and Pyragao Daz X1 and gave them to Ray Minkai and Euphemia. From a moment Pirate Gao Daz X1 and Steel Eagle were completed together, you were already one. Guy, UFFI. I look forward to you becoming our companions in the future. As soon as Merida finished speaking, Euphemia's little face showed a hint of thoughtfulness. Ray Minkai nodded and took Pyragao Daz X1. UFFI. Don't think too much now. Your current mission is to help Guy complete his mission. Merida gently put the Steel Eagle in Euphemia's palm and reminded Euphemia in a soft voice. In the past few days, Merida, who led Euphemia to tour the city, naturally knew what Euphemia was thinking. But if she wanted to realize Euphemia's thoughts, she had to let Ray Minkai pass this training mission and become an inspector of the administration. Only then could she realize Euphemia's thoughts. I know. Merida. Guy, I'm very sorry. I thought too much. Euphemia looked at the Steel Eagle in her palm and straightforwardly apologized to Ray Minkai. Ray Minkai shook his head and said with a smile, no. UFFI. As Merida said, you and I are one. If you have any ideas, just tell me, okay? Euphemia nodded with a bright smile on her face. Ahem. Okay. The meal is over. Go wash up and go to sleep. Guy, tomorrow night, I want to take you to a place. Maybe we'll stay there until dawn. You better rest early. Seeing that the battle was over, Simon looked at the time and reminded everyone. So, everyone returned to their rooms to rest. The next day, Euphemia and Merida went out early in the morning. According to them, it seemed that Euphemia wanted to go to Xingyao City to take a look. When Euphemia came to this world previously, she was still in a severely injured and unconscious state. Therefore, Euphemia was very interested in the City of Stars, which could connect to various worlds and travel between them. Although the journey to and from Xingyao City was not too far, because Merida drew up a route for Euphemia, there were a lot of sightseeing points, so Euphemia and Merida had to stay in Xingyao City for at least 3 days. This was also the first time that Euphemia and Ray Minkai were separated for so long after coming to this world. Can't bear to part with her? Shinmin stood at the door, wiping her hands on her apron as she teased Lei Minkai. From his point of view, Lei Minkai and Euphemia were a pair of lovey-dovey lovers. Although the two of them did not take the initiative to explain their relationship, Sinmin and Merida had already seen it. Probably, this is the first time that UFFI and I are separated for so long. After all, this is a new and unfamiliar world for us. The worldview from before is no longer useful here. Although Ray Minkai trusted Merida a lot, he was still worried about whether Euphemia could accept the worldview that Xingyao City brought to her. Although it was also the first time that he came to Xingyao City, he had received a huge amount of information in his original world. Naturally, he could accept everything in front of him in a short period of time. But the third princess of the Britannia Empire, Euphemia, Britannia, don't worry too much. Kai, maybe you are just overly concerned. Although that girl is a rose that was born in the depths of the palace, I can see that she is stronger and more rational than any other girl. Simon seemed to have seen through Ray Minkai's worries and stood beside him to comfort him. Ray Minkai was silent for a moment and then nodded his head. Maybe I really am overly concerned. UFFI is not that kind of girl who is spoiled since childhood. Simon, thank you. Ray Minkai let out a long breath and finally put down the doubts in his heart. It's good that you understand. It's best that you don't go out during the day stay at home and rest. I will bring you to a place at night." Sinmin smiled mysteriously, and then turned around and returned to the house, continuing her work as a house husband. Ray Minkai shrugged his shoulders and also returned to his own room, continuing the work of adjusting Pirate Gao to X1 and Steel Eagle. Following the opening of the Steel Polo World Tournament regional tournament, there was not much time left for Ray Minkai. He must make full use of the time to perfect Pirate Gao to X1 and Steel Eagle. The hands of the clock gradually moved, one circle, another circle from morning to noon, from noon to night. Ray Minkai, who did not know the time and only knew how to bury himself in hard work, finally finished adjusting Pirate Gao to X1 and Steel Eagle right before his hunger broke out. "Kai, since you are done, come down and eat." Simon's voice came from downstairs. Coming. The full moon was in the sky. After eating and drinking his fill, Ray Minkai, who had washed away his tiredness, leisurely followed behind Sinmin and walked into an especially lively street. Looking at the gorgeously dressed young girls on both sides of the street, Ray Minkai couldn't help but think crookedly. "Kai, have you found a target?" Sinmin, who was walking in front, suddenly turned her head, looked at Ray Minkai, and said with a smile. Right now, the smile on Sinmin's face was that of an experienced person, and everyone understood what she meant. Ray Minkai unhappily twitched the corner of his mouth and shook his head. "Sinmin, the place you were talking about wouldn't be here, right? If that is the case, then I will have to go back, okay? The World Tournament is about to start. I don't want to be distracted." Sinmin raised her eyebrows, then turned around and patted Ray Minkai's shoulder. "It was just a joke. I know that you are very loyal to your princess. Don't worry. The place I'm going to bring you to is at the end of this street." "That's good." Along the way, after enduring countless coquettish glances, Sinmin and Ray Minkai finally arrived at the end of this bustling street. "This is the place." Hinman stood on a staircase leading to the basement and patted the signboard with the word bar written on it beside him, which was illuminated with a dim yellow light. Ray Minkai looked left and right and discovered that although this place was somewhat close to the bustling area, it was surprisingly quiet, as if it was a completely different world from the bustling area. "This is the gathering place for us old fellows. Those young big sisters don't like us." Sinmin stroked her white beard, smiled, and said, "Perhaps, when us old fellows have pockets full of money, those young big sisters will affectionately call us daddy." Hearing that, Ray Minkai speechlessly rolled his eyes. "If you say that, aren't you afraid that I will tell Merida?" "Ha ha, what am I afraid of?" For the past few years, Merida and her sisters have always wanted me to find a partner. After Simon laughed a few times, she turned and walked down a few stairs and shouted, "It's getting late. Come down." When the door was pushed open, there was a roar of explosion and the loud sound of the fierce battle between the steel Polo models. Ray Minkai moved his gaze and found that the world behind the door was not the bar he was familiar with. Even if the right side was the familiar bar and cabinets filled with all kinds of drinks, what was the situation with the area filled with Palisky particles on the left side? "Captain, long time no see." As soon as Simon walked in, the figures sitting at the bar chatting began to shake. One by one, they quickly stood up and walked in front of Sinmin and saluted to Sinmin in unison. This didn't surprise Ray Minkai. What surprised him was that the men standing in front of Sinmin were all wearing Guing Duchy military uniforms. In an instant, a memory flashed in Ray Minkai's mind. Isn't this the bar where Lars brought Ling Shi for special training? Chapter 101. Zixian, Zixian, Zixian. The scene that originally only appeared in the animation was now appearing in front of Ray Minkai's eyes. Looking at the group of men gathered around Sinmin, wearing Guion army uniforms, Ray Minkai suddenly had the illusion that he was now in the UC century. Ahem. Okay, you guys are scaring me. Shimon coughed a few times and glanced at the group of people who were not afraid of making a big deal out of it. The Guion Principality has now been incorporated into the new federation. Why are you still thinking about the past? The man in the lead smiled embarrassedly and rubbed his hands. Isn't it because we played too much steel pull battles? After a long time of peace, we will always miss the time of the battle. Then, under his lead, the group of men patted their chests and promised, Captain, don't worry. We will definitely not cause trouble for His Majesty the Duke. It's good that you know. Simon nodded, turned to look at Ray Minkai, and said apologetically, Kai, I hope I didn't scare you. These guys are comrades who came here with me from the old world. Now, like me, they have settled down here and have families. It's just that they didn't become guides like me. Ray Minkai nodded and thought about it secretly. Hello, everyone. I'm Ray Minkai. I'm the preparatory team, led by Simon this time. Oh, another newcomer. Come, let's have a match. Let me see how strong Simon's newcomer is this time. Everyone became excited when they heard about the battle between Tetrapura and Tetrapura. But after Simon glanced at everyone, she turned to Ray Minkai and said, Kai, this time, you don't need to use your body. You can take the mech you like from the display cabinet over there for the battle. Of course, in addition to the first one, the other steel pull models also cost money. Ray Minkai turned to look and saw that on the wall on the other side of the steel pull battle system, there was a display cabinet with a total of 3 layers, with 8 steel pull models on each layer. At this time, the bar owner also came to Sinman's side and nodded to Sinman as a greeting. He looked at Ray Minkai and respectfully asked, Customer, which steel pull model do you like? Ray Minkai didn't say anything and just took out his personal terminal. The money in here should be enough. I want to buy all the steel pull models in the display case. This time, it was Sinman's SS turn. Kai, what do you want to do? Hee. Sinman, don't you want me to familiarize myself with the steel pulla as much as possible before the competition? Then, this is what I want to do now. Ha, interesting. This is the first time I've seen a newbie like you. Come on, come with us. The Guion army's fighting spirit also rose. Come on. Lei Minkai glanced at the number that had been deducted from his personal terminal, then casually opened the display cabinet and picked up Jim, which was placed on the highest level. Who wants to play with me? He actually took out the Jim. Are you serious? Looking at the Jim in Ray Minkai's hand, the Guion army members were surprised. Although these Guion army members had been away from war for many years, when choosing their favorite steel pull model, they still subconsciously chose the steel pull model that they were most familiar with. Therefore, the steel pull models they chose were all the Guion army's MS model. In this way, in front of them, the Jim that Ray Minkai chose was undoubtedly like a little sheep that had barged into a pack of wolves. Pitiful, helpless, and damn, are newbies all monsters? A few minutes later, the Guion army members who were still shouting Zixian began to cry out in surprise. Most of them could not even last a few rounds against the Jim controlled by Ray Minkai and were easily defeated by the Jim. Looking at their expressions of disbelief, Ray Minkai secretly laughed. Fortunately, Lingshur is not here yet. Otherwise, this guy who specializes in using steel balls to oppress you guys will definitely leave a deep impression on you guys. No, if this goes on, our Guion army will lose. Since our opponent is the Federation, why don't we all attack together? Suddenly, the Guion army members who were defeated by Ray Minkai raised their arms and shouted with bloodshot eyes. Hey, are you guys having too much fun? Simon, who was sitting at the bar and was about to ask the boss to prepare drinks, slapped her forehead and shouted helplessly. However, Ray Minkai waved his hand and stopped Simon from speaking. Simon, it's okay. Since you want to attack together, then come at me. What an arrogant newbie. Damn the Federation. Wait and see. Ray Minkai's calm statement completely dispelled the other people's hesitation. What was left was the Guion army who were united against a common enemy. Pa! Zago, Warrior Cannon, the mass-produced Dragonflight, and even Masilo came out. Looking at the Guion partners who were united against a common enemy and did not hesitate to gang up on Ray Minkai with a 5-man team, Sinman helplessly slapped her forehead. This group of bastards who hit their heads. Sinman's helplessness was temporarily put aside. Let's see how Ray Minkai, who was fighting 1 against 5, dealt with the enemy's siege. Jim vs. the entire Guion army team. At first glance, it might be a battle that happened during the war in the original work. Oof. It really looks like a reenactment of the war. The tall guy who controlled the mass-produced dragonflight looked at Jim, who was placed in the firing position by Ray Minkai, and exclaimed, "You still dare to say that? Other than my Zagu eye, which one of your airframes are from a war?" The bearded man who used Zagu, I mocked his partner. "Hey, isn't my warrior cannon from the year of the war?" See, someone refuted the bearded man. "If you want to fight, then let's start. Come on. Don't think that you can look down on us veterans, just because you're an adult. Kid, steel pull a battle system, start. Palovsky particle dispersion, begin. Set the first field, universe." The moment the battlefield was formed, Jim, driven by the catapult, rushed into this dangerous universe. Buzz. As soon as Jim went out, a beam of light broke through the air. Ray Minkai's left hand moved, and Jim's propulsion nozzle moved up and down. Suddenly, Jim's body sank, and he rolled to the left to avoid the beam that broke through the air. The next moment, Jim raised his shield and gun and counterattacked with the beam gun. Buzz, buzz. It was a shield. A shield that suddenly appeared blocked Jim's beam attack, and behind it, there was a face that Ray Minkai was familiar with. "Masilio." Ray Minkai snorted coldly and launched another attack. However, this time, it was not Jim's attack, but an attack from above Jim. Dragonflight. It was the mass-produced Dragonflight, painted in dark green. With high mobility, it first shot 3 consecutive beams at Jim, and after sealing Jim's range of movement, it immediately seized the opportunity and rushed at Jim. "It's over. Arrogant brat." The beam saber in the hands of the mass-produced Dragonflight burst forth and slashed towards Jim. Zila. It was blocked. Jim's shield managed to block Dragonflight's beam blade in time, but the torrent of blazing particles was not something the shield could withstand for long. As long as he saw the rapidly melting surface of the shield, he knew that in another 10 seconds, no, perhaps only a few seconds, Jim's shield would be cut in half. "Brat." His reaction was pretty good, "But you're finished." The pilot of the mass-produced Dragonflight laughed proudly. Ray Minkai suddenly felt a sense of danger. Behind. At some point, Zagu, I actually appear behind Jim and raise a machine gun in his hand. The black muzzle locked onto Jim. Crack. Tut 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 tut. A series of bullets tore through the darkness and went straight for Jim's back. As long as one hit, Jim would not have an easy time. Facing such a predicament, Ray Minkai's face sank. The fingers of his left and right hands moved quickly, and Jim, who was holding the shield to block the beam saber, immediately pushed away the beam saber from Dragonflight. At the same time, he decisively abandoned the beam gun in his hand and grabbed the left hand of the mass-produced Dragonflight. Boom! In the nick of time, Jim's propulsion backpack exploded and turned Jim and a mass-produced Dragonflight in a half circle. The positions of Jim and the mass-produced Dragonflight were completely switched. What? While the pilot of the mass-produced Dragonflight was stunned, Zagu Ai's attack unexpectedly hit the back of the mass-produced Dragonflight. Boom! What the hell is going on? It was slow to say, but fast to do. When Zagu Ai launched the sneak attack, Ray Minkai decisively controlled Jim to block the beam saber of the mass-produced Dragonflight. He also seized the opportunity to switch the positions of Jim and the mass-produced Dragonflight. Thus, the scene of Zagu Ai destroying the mass-produced Dragonflight appeared. How is this possible? The pilot of the mass-produced Dragonflight stared blankly at the remains of his beloved machine. "You tricked us. Attack. Continue to attack." The pilot of Zagu Ai, who realized that he was tricked, roared. The siege began again. However, this time, after witnessing Ray Minkai's close-range combat ability, the remaining 4 members of the Guion army reached a consensus to keep their distance as much as possible. Among them, no one's close-range combat skills were better than the pilots of the mass-produced Dragonflight. Therefore, they decided to rely on their powerful firepower to exhaust Jim to death. TSK, are you bullying Jim because he only has a beam gun? Ray Minkai threw away the broken shield in Jim's hand that could not withstand another bullet. He pulled out the beam saber and controlled Jim to charge back and forth between the rain of bullets with a gun in one hand and a sword in the other. At this moment, a ray of light suddenly appeared in the dark void. Vroom! Zagu, I, and Cannon Warrior, who were on the right side of Jim, were instantly destroyed. Vroom! The remaining 2 Gion army mechs also met the same fate. That is, the scene in front of him was so familiar. It was so familiar that Ray Minkai was almost certain who the figure that appeared in the smoke of the explosion was. Phoenix Gouda. Chapter 102. Riccardo Fellini, a steel pulla fighter from Italy and the champion of the Italian region. The steel pulla model he used was from Gouda W's Flying Wing Zero, and the Phoenix Wings Gouda was created from it. Looking at the Phoenix Wings Gouda that could use the asymmetrical design in the thick smoke, Ray Minkai's heart gradually ignited a flame. A world-class player. He didn't expect him to appear so easily in front of him. He didn't expect the person who originally appeared in front of Lingshire to appear in front of him at this moment. The world was really unpredictable. With the Phoenix Wings Gouda's interference, this 5 versus 1 battle to the Gion army could be said to be the re-emergence of the Battle of Steel Pulla after a year of war had come to an end. However, their good mood would not stop after being disturbed. Who the hell are you? Just when the battle was exciting, you came to interfere. Don't you see that our Gion army is about to defeat the damn Federation? The soldiers of the G1 army shouted unhappily. Riccardo Fellini, Italy's champion. I didn't expect you to appear here. After Simon saw the true face of the Phoenix Wings Gouda's owner, she couldn't sit still anymore. What? Italy's champion? As soon as Simon's words came out, the Gion army was speechless. The handsome European man had a face of confusion. He looked at the unhappy Gion army and then looked at Ray Minkai. Am I meddling in other people's business? No, you came at the right time. Ray Minkai shrugged his shoulders and chuckled. At least, the Federation once again hugged a thigh at a crucial moment. You bastard. Federation bastard. Wait and see. Again, one more time. Ray Minkai's words didn't sound like much, but made the Gion army go crazy. Only those who had experienced a year of war and the wars that followed would know that every time the Federation was about to suffer a crushing defeat, they would always be able to latch onto a strong thigh in time and turn defeat into victory. This conclusion made the Gion army, who were once villains, feel embarrassed. As for the Italian man in front of him, Fellini tilted his head slightly. After thinking for a while, he gave up trying to understand Ray Minkai's hidden meaning. Instead, he looked at Ray Minkai and invited him. You're an interesting person. Why don't we have a battle? Using Jim and your Phoenix Wings Gouda, Ray Minkai picked up the wounded Lele and Jim, whose shield had been blown away, and placed them in front of Fellini. Oh, no, not Jim. You can choose something else. Of course, you can also use your own steel pulla model. Fellini waved his hand and continued. Of course, if you don't have a steel pulla model, I can invite you once. As long as you can accompany me in a battle. Just to have a battle with me. Ray Minkai was a little surprised. Fellini's performance was something that Ray Minkai had never seen before. Although in the future, Lingshire would use the pickup tool that he spent 3 days to create to defeat Gouda, Ray Minkai didn't understand this generous Fellini in front of him. Regarding this, Ray Minkai shook his head. No, you don't need to spend money. I've already bought the steel pulla model here. Since you want to have a battle with me, then I can't continue to use this gem. Ray Minkai put the scarred gem on the counter and let the boss take it back. He turned around and walked to the display cabinet and began to choose. Phoenix Zero Gouda. What a troublesome body. If the pirate Gouda X1 and the Steel Eagle were brought, perhaps Ray Minkai wouldn't be so troubled. However, he couldn't reach the level of practice. However, if he only used the steel pulla models in the display cabinet, it would be a difficult challenge. From the craftsmanship, the body's strength, and the equipment, These models were only for display. At most, they would be casually taken away by the customers. They couldn't be compared to the steel Pula model that was created with countless efforts. However, Ray Minkai only had this choice. I have to choose carefully. Boss, give me a glass of water. Looking at Ray Minkai standing in front of the display cabinet for a long time, Fellini wasn't in a hurry. He took the opportunity to sit by the counter and rest. You're the one, Miss Sala. After thinking about it again and again, Ray Minkai decided to use Miss Sala on the second floor. Among the steel Pula models on the display cabinet, only Miss Sala could combine speed, attack, and defense. The others, even the Tio's Age of Fear, who set off a period of time among the miscellaneous OLs, couldn't gain an advantage in front of the Phoenix Zero. Oh, Miss Sala? Not a bad choice. Fellini saw the Miss Sala in Ray Minkai's hand and couldn't help but praise. Here, only Miss Sala can fight against your Phoenix Zero Gouda. As for the others, either their performance can't keep up, or I don't really like them. Ray Minkai walked to his position and shook his head helplessly. Actually, you can use your own specialized body. Fellini, who also walked to his position, shrugged and said puzzledly, I don't have one. Ray Minkai's frank words stunned Fellini. Then he laughed out loud. Ha ha, interesting. Interesting. You're really interesting. That's good. If that's the case, then I won't be pretentious. Let's begin. Let's begin. The steel Pula battle system, which had just calmed down, was activated again. The moment the Palaski particles filled the entire space, Miss Sala, Phoenix Zero, and Gouda were placed in the attacking position at the same time. Miss Sala, Ray Minkai attack. Phoenix Zero, Gouda, Riccardo Fellini attack. The universe. It was still the same universe. Maybe it was for convenience. Or maybe it was to experience fairness. Fellini didn't take the initiative to choose the map. Instead, he gave it to Ray Minkai. Therefore, Miss Sala and Phoenix Zero, Gouda's battlefield was the endless universe. Come on, let me see your strength. Fellini's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. Wait and see. Your Royal Highness. The title that suddenly came out of Ray Minkai's mouth made Fellini, Sinman, and the others stunned. It's nothing. It's just a slip of the tongue. Riccardo Fellini. Come on, let me see the strength of the Italian champion. Ray Minkai, who realized that he had accidentally said the phrase, quickly blurted out a few words to draw Fellini's attention back to the battle. Fortunately, Miss Sala's fast movement increased Fellini's concentration, so he didn't pay much attention to Ray Minkai's slip of the tongue. Fortunately, the people in this world don't know about the existence of the Meat Village, and they don't know that Fellini is in the ultra-space-time fortress next door because of the princess. Ray Minkai secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The next moment, all of Miss Sala's thrusters continued to rise, pushing Miss Sala's body, which was larger than an ordinary MS, into a flash of lightning, soaring in the empty vacuum. That's fast. However, in front of the Phoenix Wing Zero Gouda, speed is not enough to defeat me. Under Fellini's control, the Phoenix Wing Zero Gouda raised its specialized destruction rifle. Buzz! The light of the particle condensation quickly lit up in front of the destruction rifle's muzzle. In a few seconds, the moment Miss Sala's figure appeared in front of Fellini's eyes, the destruction rifle was fired. The particle beam from the destruction rifle broke through the darkness and launched a direct attack on Miss Sala. However, just as the particle beam from the destruction rifle was about to hit Miss Sala, who was supposed to be hit, suddenly transformed, and with the change of the thrusters axis during the transformation, it forced the thrusters to become the key to stopping Miss Sala from continuing to fly forward. Buzz! A second ago, the particle beam, which was a fatal threat to Miss Sala, flew past Miss Sala in vain and disappeared into the vast space. Well done! Seeing how Miss Sala solved the crisis so cleanly, Fellini could not help but sigh. Next, it's my turn. Take this. Fellini. Miss Sala transformed again. In an instant, Ray Minkai, who decided not to conserve Miss Sala's speed, drove the Misala's thrusters to the limit and madly charged forward. Swoosh! Misala, which was specially designed for Jupiter's gravitational environment, under Earth's gravitational environment, which was 5 times lower than Jupiter's gravity. The excessive thrust of Misala's super high maneuverability made the Phoenix Wing Zero Gao Da's radar almost unable to catch up. You've really picked a good airframe. Your name? I'm Riccardo Fellini. Fellini raised his hand to turn off the Phoenix Wing Zero Gao Da's radar and decided to use his intuition to track Misala's whereabouts. Ray Minkai. As soon as Ray Minkai's voice sounded, 2 light beams suddenly appeared on the back of the Phoenix Wing Zero Gauda. However, the Phoenix Wing Zero Gauda only slightly expanded the wings on his left shoulder and blocked the light beam attack from Misala. Oof. People who only know how to sneak around in the dark don't even think about defeating me and the Phoenix Gauda? Fellini's voice was full of confidence. Even if he could not catch Misala's figure, he knew that Misala would eventually attack. At that time, the Misala's flaw would definitely appear. Is that so? Then how about this? Streaks of white smoke rose from Misala's back at high speed and swarmed towards the Phoenix Flying Wings Form Zero Gundam. Buzz! In the darkness, a purple light beam shot out from the Phoenix Wing Zero Gao Da's destruction rifle and swept a large arc in front of the Phoenix Wing Zero Gao Da. Boom! 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 The missile attack aimed at the Phoenix Flying Wing Type Zero Gundam had failed. However, Misala, who was controlled by Ray Minkai, took this opportunity to break through the Phoenix Wing Zero Gao Da's back from the side. Misala stretched out her hands, and the howitzer on her wrist was ready to fire. General. Chapter 103. Dong Dong. Misala's wrists continuously fired the howitzers, but they did not hit Phoenix Zero Gao Da. Over there. Ray Minkai's eyes focused. With a move of his left hand, Misala once again transformed into MA state and flew away at full speed. Boom! In this split second, Phoenix Zero Gao Da's destruction rifle's unique lavender beam grazed Misala's foot equipment and flew into the void. You're really fast. Fellini's mouth curved into a smile as he shouted with high fighting spirit. Same to you. Same to you. Ray Minkai retorted. Misala's foot equipment was scratched by Phoenix Zero Gao Da's beam, but it still did not affect Misala's speed. He was still the fastest in this universe. Lightning called Misala kept appearing in Fellini's eyes. Phoenix Gao Da's muzzle was raised, lowered, and raised again, but it did not shoot the lavender particle beam like the previous 2 times. Too fast. It was really too fast. In exchange, just now, Ray Minkai had already seen Fellini's strategy of waiting for Misala to come to him. If it were not for Ray Minkai's quick reaction, Misala would have died under Phoenix Gao Da's gun. However, Ray Minkai still did not understand how Phoenix Zero Gao Da avoided Misala's fatal blow. Do you want to know? If you want to know, then defeat Phoenix Zero Gao Da. Ray Minkai. In the midst of Fellini's loud shout, Phoenix Zero Gao Da suddenly moved and flew towards Earth at full speed. It looked as if it was falling towards Earth. Do you want to fall into the gravity well? Ray Minkai's eyes flashed. Hey, do you want to know? Even if it falls into the gravity well, your Misala can still rely on the strong thrust to get rid of this annoying gravity. But can your Misala break through the atmosphere? Fellini's voice was extremely high, as if he was issuing a challenge to Ray Minkai. Ray Minkai's expression became serious, but he did not hesitate to control Misala to fly towards Phoenix Zero Gao Da. This decision made Fellini admire Ray Minkai. Hey, well done. Ray Minkai, do you know? Phoenix. Only a phoenix that is reborn is a real phoenix. Come on, use your Misala and my Phoenix Gao to have a nirvana of fire. Phoenix Zero Gao Da's body that was rapidly falling to the edge of the atmosphere was surrounded by flames. The white and green paint was also dyed red by the raging flames at this moment. From afar, It looked like a divine bird rolling in the raging flames. A phoenix? Let me see how powerful your phoenix Gauda is. Misala. Misala lowered her altitude and also landed at the edge of the atmosphere. She quickly flew towards Phoenix Zero Gauda. Hey, come on. In the raging flames, Phoenix Zero Gauda actually turned around, with its back facing Earth and facing space. It raised the destruction rifle in its hand and locked onto Miss Sala from afar. This scene made Kai's eyes light up. This was simply the scene that appeared when Zero piloted Gauda and blew up the satellite in Gauda W. However, the two sides in front of him were replaced by Phoenix Zero Gauda and Misala. Don't think that I'm a satellite that will fall straight down, Kai shouted. His hands moved continuously, pushing Misala's equipped thrusters to the extreme. Whoa! Within the flames of the Form Zero Gundam that enveloped the Phoenix flying wings, a more dazzling and deadly purple light rose up. Misala rolled to the side and once again dodged the beam shot by Phoenix Zero Gauda's destruction rifle. But, unexpectedly, due to gravity and the high temperature caused by friction with the atmosphere, Misala's maneuverability had some deviations. In the end, Misala was unable to stabilize her posture and had to pull up to stabilize her body. TSK, is it still too difficult? Kai looked regretfully at Misala, who had already left the atmosphere, and sighed. I didn't expect that even with all my might, I still couldn't pull Misala into the gravity well. Under the atmosphere, the Phoenix Zero Gauda that had completed its descent was suspended in the air. It and Misala looked at each other across the atmosphere. I lost. Misala broke through the atmosphere with too much difficulty. Kai shook his head and decisively admitted defeat. No, this is a battle that hasn't ended yet. Kai, next time, I hope you can use your exclusive body to compete with me instead of using these display models. Otherwise, you and I won't be able to enjoy ourselves. Facing Kai's admission of defeat, Fellini shook his head. In this short battle, Fellini had already recognized that Kai was a worthy opponent. Just by relying on these display models, Kai was able to fight evenly with Phoenix Zero Gauda. This was enough to prove Kai's strength. No steel pull fighter would refuse to fight with such an opponent. Not to mention, no steel Prada warrior would acknowledge the result of such an opponent surrendering when he exerted his full strength. Then, Fellini took the initiative to leave the control panel and walked to Kai's side and extended his right hand. Riccardo Fellini. Once again, Fellini solemnly introduced himself again. Kai, it's nice to fight with you. Kai reached out and shook hands with Fellini. Me too. I hope that next time, I can fight with Kai at full strength. Pirate Gauda X1. This is my exclusive mech body. Kai nodded and said the name of his exclusive mech body. Phoenix Zero Gauda. At this moment, Kai and Fellini were like knights about to fight on the battlefield, introducing their most powerful weapons to each other. Clap, clap, clap. Applause sounded. Although the battle between Kai and Fellini was stopped halfway, it was indeed a wonderful duel. Especially the battle in the atmosphere. It made Sinmin and the Guion army gasp in amazement. Very wonderful. Kai, Fellini, you are worthy of being steel pull fighters. Sinmin was not stingy with her applause and clapped repeatedly. Thank you very much. It seems that I did not come to the wrong place on this trip. Kai, next time, let's fight again. After that, Fellini turned and left the bar. How do you feel? After Fellini left, Sinmin sent a glass of ice water to Kai. Very good. It's just a pity. If it were not for Misala not being suitable to break through the atmosphere, I'm afraid that this battle would not have ended until now. Riccardo Fellini is worthy of being Italy's champion. He is a strong opponent. The ice water slid down his throat, making Kai's nerves, which were still excited by the fierce battle, calm down a little. Yes, in the official world competition, there are many opponents like Riccardo Fellini. Kai, I don't know what the training missions of other people are, but according to the previous mission records, the difficulty of your mission is undoubtedly S level. Cinnamon shook the glass of brandy in her hand and said thoughtfully, S level? That easy really gave me a good mission. But in retrospect, most of us are newcomers to the MS competition for the first time. Being able to break out of the regional competition is already the upper limit of most of the reserve players' ability. With that, Ray Minkai added another sentence. Even if there is a strong and powerful support of 100 million yuan, money can't make up for the technical gap between the MS competition. Exactly. Cinnamon nodded, reached out, took out an envelope from her arms, and handed it to Ray Minkai. This is the registration letter. I've already done it for you. Thank you. Cinnamon, sorry to trouble you. Ray Minkai called the bar owner and asked him to prepare a glass of brandy for him, and greeted Cinnamon. Hey, Merida probably won't come back for the next few days. If you really want to thank me, why don't you buy me a drink? After picking up the glass and clinking it with Ray Minkai's, Cinnamon laughed heartily. What's so difficult about that? Boss, I'll buy everyone drinks here tonight. In an instant, the Guion army people were boiling. Boy, good job. From today on, you are our comrade in arms. Ha ha ha. After a night of chaos, the Guion army people were all drunk. One by one, they fell on the tables and chairs. Cinnamon, who was the most aggressive, but didn't drink too much, helplessly scratched the back of her head and sighed. These guys are so drunk all day and night. It looks like I have to call their families to pick them up again. Cinnamon, it's your fault for constantly getting them drunk. Sitting at the bar, Ray Minkai, whose face was slightly red, slowly drank the hangover soup. If I don't get them drunk, am I supposed to get drunk? Tomorrow, Merida will definitely call home. If she knows that I'm drunk again, I'm afraid it will be troublesome. Looking at Simmons' frightened look, Ray Minkai felt it was a bit funny. He didn't expect Cinnamon, who dominated the battlefield, to be the head of the family controlled by her daughter. This world is really strange. After letting out another sigh, Ray Minkai put down the hangover soup and walked to the steel Pula combat system. He casually picked up the Zagu that was poured on top of it. This was the steel Pula model used by one of the Guion army people. Although the Zagu was already scarred, it could be seen from the exquisite decoration that this steel Pula model was made with a lot of effort. Cinnamon, do you still want to go back to the battlefield? All of a sudden, Lei Minkai's curiosity was piqued. Cinnamon was stunned. After a moment of silence, she said with a hoarse voice, "How is that possible? For sinners like us, being able to live freely in this world is already the greatest gift." Chapter 104. In the next few days, Ray Minkai and Cinnamon spent almost all their time in this bar, playing steel Pula battles again and again. On the way, the Italian champion Fellini also came here several times. But when he saw that Ray Minkai was using the steel Pula model on the display cabinet, he immediately dismissed the idea of playing steel Pula with Ray Minkai. As mentioned before Ray Minkai took out his own exclusive body, Fellini was not interested in fighting Ray Minkai to his heart's content. In his opinion, Ray Minkai, the opponent he recognized, should be defeated in his strongest state. Only then could he fight to his heart's content. However, when Fellini was about to leave today, he was attracted by an old man and a young man who walked in. Oh, another newcomer? Fellini's gaze passed the old man and fell on a red-haired boy behind him. From him, Fellini felt a very interesting smell. Brigadier General Lars. As soon as the old man stepped into the bar, all the Guion army soldiers who were either fighting or drinking quickly put down their work and quickly gathered around the old man, just like when Cinnamon brought Ray Minkai to this bar. Lars. Because the opponent ran away, Ray Minkai walked down from the steel Pula platform and returned to the bar. Well, it's Brigadier General Lars. Kai, you should have seen him before. Cinnamon did not follow the others to surround them. Instead, she sat firmly in her seat and ordered drinks and juice for Lars and the boy. We met once at Makoto Ito's model store. While Ray Minkai and Cinnamon were talking, Lars separated the crowd and brought a red-haired boy to Ray Minkai and Sinman. Halfway through, he deliberately glanced at Fellini, who was sitting next to him. Obviously, he also recognized the Italian champion. However, he did not pay much attention to him. Instead, he focused on Sinman and Ray Minkai. Sinman, how come you have time to come here today? Lars glanced at the empty seat next to Sinman and the drink that was already ordered. Then he couldn't help but smile. I brought Kai here to train. Lars, he doesn't seem to be your reserve team member, right? Sinman raised her hand to invite Lars to sit down while looking at a red-haired boy standing behind Lars. Unexpectedly, before Lars could introduce a red-haired boy to him, a red-haired boy pointed at Ray Minkai and shouted, "It's you, Ray Minkai. You're here too." Lingshur, compared to the surprised red-haired boy, Ray Minkai was much calmer. According to the original plot, Lingshur should have come to this bar under the guidance of Lars. However, before Lingshur arrived, Ray Minkai fought with Fellini in advance. What are you doing here? Don't tell me the special training that Uncle Lars was talking about is you. Lingshur pointed his finger at Ray Minkai and said, "Special training? If you don't mind, I'd be happy to have a match with you." Ray Minkai raised his wine glass and raised it to Ling Jie in a toast. "How about it? You. Then come." Lingshur clenched his fist and was about to agree to Ray Minkai's request, but he was stopped by Lars. "Lingshur, right now, it's better for you to familiarize yourself with this place." After Lars stopped Ling Jie, who was about to challenge Ray Minkai to a duel, he calmed him down and began to explain the origins of the bar and the Jiwang army. Of course, he explained it with the identity of this world. Then, Lingshur, who spoke without thinking, successfully provoked the anger of the Gion army, and another fight began. However, before the fight began, Ray Minkai raised his hand and shouted, "Wait, before the fight begins, I want to say something. Lingshur, you didn't bring Cheng's steel pull-a model, right? Then, you can choose any steel pull-a model in the display cabinet over there. However, you have to remember that I bought these steel pull-a models with my own money. Why should I use your steel pull-a model?" Lingshur, who was already unhappy with Ray Minkai, once again pointed at Ray Minkai and shouted, "Because, other than that, do you have any other steel pull-a models? Don't tell me you're going to go back and ask Chang for the model right now." Ray Minkai's casual words left the Ling division speechless. "Damn it. Boss, I want the weakest steel pull-a model. Wait and see." Lingshur, who was irritated by Ray Minkai, decided to vent his anger on the steel pull-a model battle. "Steel ball? Interesting, young man." Fellini looked at Lingshur, who took the steel ball onto the steel pull-a platform and left his seat. He sat next to Ray Minkai and said with great interest, "What? Are you interested?" Ray Minkai glanced at Fellini. Yes. Who told a certain guy not to take out his own mechanical body? I have to find something else to do." Fellini glanced at Ray Minkai in disdain and took out his own mechanical body, Phoenix Wing Type Zerogauda, and walked over. A reenactment of the original plot? But it's quite interesting to watch. Ray Minkai finished the wine in his cup, stood up, and walked towards the display cabinet. "Kai!" Sinman shouted in confusion. "Just a little bit. Lars, don't you want to train Lingshur? I happen to have some time." Ray Minkai blinked, and his face was mysterious. Is that so? Then, I'll leave it to you." Lars nodded happily, and his face was full of anticipation. Fellini, who was preparing to participate in the steel pull-a battle, noticed Ray Minkai's movements and shrugged his shoulders and put away his Phoenix Wing Type Zerogao. "Do you owe me a favor?" Ray Minkai heard and said helplessly, "I didn't expect the favor of the Italian champion to be so cheap. Whether it's cheap or not, it depends on the person, right?" Fellini waved his hand, returned to his seat, picked up the wine glass, and put on the look of an onlooker. "This guy really—" Ray Minkai shook his head in annoyance and reached out to take out the orange steel pull-a model at the bottom of the display cabinet. Lingshur, who was in the middle of a fierce battle, suddenly felt that the pressure around him had eased, and there was no longer the high-intensity pressure of being besieged by 5 MSs that made him nervous. "What's going on?" Lingshi frowned and shouted, "Hey, is it over?" Lingshi shouted a few times, but no one could answer him. Suddenly, a tremor rose from his spine and quickly occupied Lingshi's body. Before he could figure out what was going on, Ling Si subconsciously pulled with his right hand, and the metal ball he was controlling accelerated to the left. Along the way, the metal ball made several irregular movements that alternated between left and right. Boom, boom, boom. Several bright fireballs rose behind the steel ball one after another. Attack! Where did it come from? Lingshi looked around and suddenly looked up. On the steel ball, a shadow appeared. That dark muzzle. That orange paint. There was also that round body. This. Wasn't it the steel ball? Steel ball? In Lingshi's surprised gaze, the orange steel ball moved, and the 150mm double-mounted rapid-fire cannon on top locked onto Lingshi's steel ball and a round of continuous fire. Boom! Boom! Lingshi once again controlled his steel ball to avoid the attack. TSK. I have that kind of thing too. In the blink of an eye, the white steel ball and the orange steel ball were continuously firing at each other with their own cannons. However, this seemingly intense bombardment did not cause any damage to the other party. From afar, this seemed to be a fireworks competition. TSK. It's like a child playing house. Lingshi, whose patience was gradually running out, gritted his teeth and decided to charge forward for a close-range battle. Otherwise, according to the current long-distance bombardment, how long would it take to fight? Boom! Boom! The steel ball's 180 recoilless cannon was still firing shells, and beautiful and dazzling fireworks were still rising in the battle area. However, the distance between the two iron balls was shrinking, and it was constantly shrinking. Lingshi's idea of a close-range battle tactic was brought to fruition. Now is the time. The white steel ball suddenly exploded with its maximum speed, and as if it had gone mad, it rushed towards the orange steel ball that was the closest to it. Little did he know that what Lingshi wanted to do was also what Ray Mingkai wanted to do. The corners of Ray Mingkai's mouth curled up slightly, and the orange steel ball K's jet noose was immediately fired. How can that kind of thing catch me? The noose fired by steel ball K naturally could not escape Lingshi's eyes. In his opinion, how could that thing that only knew how to go straight catch a steel ball? Is that so? Lingshi, you're still too inexperienced. Ray Mingkai's right hand turned slightly, and steel ball K's jet noose immediately changed direction, and in a few breaths, it rushed to the front of the white steel ball. How could I be caught by you? The white steel ball swung its left auxiliary arm, trying to get rid of the jet noose that was trying to catch it, but it fell into a trap. White gas spurted out again and again, and the jet noose's direction suddenly changed from straight up to tilting upwards. In the blink of an eye, the white steel ball's auxiliary arm was entangled by the jet noose. Damn it! Checkmate! The orange steel ball rapidly circled around the white steel ball several times, making the steel rope wrap tighter, and used the double-mounted rapid-fire cannon to block the white steel ball's cockpit. However, Lingshi would not admit defeat so quickly. He saw the white steel ball's 180mm recoilless cannon move in an instant, aiming at the orange steel ball. You're the one who should be checkmated. Lingshi decisively pressed the launch button. Boom! The iron ball's 180mm recoilless cannon fired, but the fired shell missed. How could this be? Lingshi could not believe his eyes. It turned out that the orange steel ball K had been tightening the steel rope around the white steel ball, causing the white steel ball to be in a state of imbalance. Therefore, the white steel ball's backwater attack failed. Chapter 105. Haha, don't be discouraged. Lingshi, you still have a long way to go. Lars patted Lingshi's shoulder and continuously comforted the youth who was defeated by Ray Mingkai. TSK. Needless to say, this is just a failure. It's just that this guy deliberately used the steel ball to anger people. Seeing Ray Mingkai leisurely return to his seat after the battle and chat with Fellini, Lingshur gnashed his teeth in hatred. It was just like Tatsuya Yuki who defeated him cleanly in front of many students not long ago. No, even more hateful. Although Yujo Tatsuya had defeated him, it made him realize the charm of Tepra's battle and made him put away his contempt for Tepra's battle. However, Rei Minkai suddenly intervened in the battle just now, which was already hateful enough, not to mention the fact that they were using metal balls against metal balls to fight. You bastard! Just wait and see. Other than Tatsuya Yuki, you will be the second person I will defeat. The more Lingshur thought about it, the more hateful he became, and he couldn't help but say ruthless words. I'll be waiting, Rei Minkai replied unhurriedly. Ever since Rei Minkai accepted EZ's mission, being enemies with Makoto Ito and Lingshur had become a permanent thing. Instead of making it seem like they were mortal enemies, it was better to maintain the current delicate situation. After all, maintaining a good relationship with Makoto Ito and quarreling with Lingshur was also a good choice for the battle. Ha ha! Interesting. Interesting. You're Lingshur, right? Are you interested in a one-on-one fight with me? After watching for so long, Fellini finally couldn't help but want to fight with Lingshur. Previously, if not for Rei Minkai's interference, it would have been Fellini and Lingshur's battle. Oh, who are you? Lingshur retracted his resentful gaze and looked at Fellini suspiciously. Riccardo Fellini. He is a steel pulla fighter from Italy and is also the Italian champion. Rei Minkai's somewhat lazy tone made Lingshur very angry, but he was still attracted by the title of Italy's champion. Interesting. Okay, I'll fight with you, but you have to let this bastard lend me the steel pulla model. Lingshur agreed to Fellini's invitation and pointed to Rei Minkai and shouted. Rei Minkai indifferently raised his finger to the display cabinet, revealing a look of "do as you wish, don't be shy." TSK, that's what you said. If you break it, it's none of my business. Lingshur looked at Rei Minkai's straightforward look and couldn't help but mutter. Okay, at worst, I'll ask Chung to help me make a few parts. Lingshur, do as you wish, don't be shy with me. Once again, Rei Minkai's annoying tone made Lingshur's anger rise by 3 feet. However, people have to bow their heads under the eaves. Who told him to know nothing about steel pulla model? Ha ha, Kai, you're such a black-hearted kid. Sinmin, who watched the whole process, couldn't help but laugh. Lars, who was next to her, also stroked his mustache and couldn't help but smile. It's better than fighting to the death, isn't it? Otherwise, Cheng's father won't let me go. Rei Minkai shrugged his shoulders, indicating that he was afraid. Ha, kid, you're to my liking. If it wasn't for Simon's luck, maybe I could be your guide. Lars patted Rei Minkai's shoulder hard, his face full of praise. You flatter me. Rei Minkai grinned. This Lamba Lars looks like he's 60 years old? Why is he still so strong? Rei Minkai was in pain from the pats, secretly complaining to himself. At this time, Simon suddenly received a message. Merida and the others are back. Kai, it's time to go back. Rei Minkai nodded, stood up, and stretched. Let's go back. These few days should be enough. I have to go back and prepare for the regionals. I'm looking forward to your performance. Kai. Lars patted Rei Minkai's shoulder again. Thank you. When Sinmin and Rei Minkai left the bar and returned to the surface, they discovered that it was a beautiful sunset. It's already this time. Kai, I'll have to trouble you. Accompany me to buy some groceries. Sinmin looked at the sunset that was gradually sinking into the horizon and requested Rei Minkai. Let's go together. It's a good chance to walk around and relax. I've been fighting too much these few days, so I'm always in a nervous state. Rei Minkai readily agreed. When the sun had completely sunk into the horizon, Rei Minkai and Sinmin pulled their bags and returned to the residence. The moment they stepped into the residence, a burst of noise followed. Haro, welcome home. Haro, welcome home. Haro. Sinmin looked at the round little thing that was bouncing back and forth at the entrance. She couldn't help but be stunned. Is the Ministry of Justice's doctor back? Haro. No. Haro. No. Ray Minkai counted and found that the harrow that was bouncing around in front of him sounded very noisy, but in reality, there were only about 5 of them. Compared to the number of harrow that Shi Hui from the Ministry of Justice brought back, there were more than 10 of them. Harrow, who's your master? Ray Minkai put the things in his hands aside, sat at the entrance, and said while changing his shoes. A red harrow rolled to Ray Minkai's side and said with blinking electronic eyes, Harrow, Kai, Harrow, Kai. Me? I don't have harrow. At this moment, Ray Minkai didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the red harrow's reaction. Oh, Kai, Simon, you're back. At this time, Euphemia's voice came from inside, and then Euphemia, wearing a white gauze dress, walked out of the living room. When she saw the bouncing harrow around Ray Minkai and Sinman, she said lightly, Harrow, don't disturb Kai and Sinman. They're already very tired. Harrow, rest. Harrow, rest. Under Euphemia's command, the 5 noisy harrow rolled back to the entrance and into the energy slot that was set for them. This is UFFI's? Seeing the scene in front of him, Ray Minkai pointed at the quiet harrow and asked, Doctor gave it to me and said that. He said that I might need it in the future. Euphemia nodded her head, then looked towards Sinman. Sinman, Merida is cooking, but she seems to have encountered some problems. Is that so? Then I'll go and cook first. Kai, you go and wash up first. Sinman nodded her head and took the lead to leave. And when Euphemia got close to Ray Minkai, she frowned and took a step back. So smelly. Kai, did you drink alcohol? Ray Minkai touched his nose somewhat awkwardly. A bit. After staying in the bar for a few days, although he did not drink like that Guion army, he did drink quite a lot. Not to mention the smell of alcohol that permeated the entire bar. Lowering his head and smelling, his clothes were full of the smell of alcohol. Under the awkwardness, Ray Minkai could only pass the things to Euphemia and ran to take a shower with his tail between his legs. Night. After eating a full meal, Ray Minkai went to the back garden alone and sat on a long bench, looking up at the starry sky that was similar to his original world. Just when Ray Minkai's thoughts were about to fly off into the sky and disappear without a trace, a light sound suddenly entered into Ray Minkai's ears. Who is it? Ray Minkai stood up from the long bench and looked towards the small path that the sound came from. It's me, Kai. Euphemia walked out from the small path. Under the moonlight, Euphemia, who was wearing a white dress, seemed to be draped with a layer of mysterious and holy light gauze, making people unable to help but be intoxicated with just a look. Kai, are you looking at the starry sky? Euphemia walked to Ray Minkai's side lightly and looked into Ray Minkai's eyes and asked, N. Ray Minkai nodded his head, then pulled Euphemia to sit down and raise his head to look at the starry sky above his head. This starry sky is very similar to the starry sky in my hometown. UFFI, don't you think so? Hearing that, Euphemia raised her head to look at the starry sky above her head. After a long time, she slowly lowered her head and looked at Ray Minkai. Yes, very similar. If not for so many things that had happened, perhaps I would have thought that this is my hometown. Hee, this is also Earth. UFFI. Ray Minkai laughed lightly. Yes, it's all Earth. Euphemia softly responded. Then, there was silence again. Sensing that something was wrong, Ray Minkai looked at Euphemia, who was sitting next to him, in confusion. UFFI, do you want to go back? Even if Ray Minkai didn't know why Euphemia was following Merida around during this period of time, Ray Minkai felt something. No, I'm still thinking. Euphemia shook her head. After a moment of silence, she slowly said, Kai, do you have any thoughts about the Britannia Empire? Thoughts? Ray Minkai was surprised, but then smiled. Is that so? UFFI, you want to change the empire, right? Kai, you already know? Euphemia looked at her sweetheart in surprise. Ray Minkai shook his head, reached out and stroked Euphemia's beautiful and smooth hair, and said softly, UFFI, have you forgotten? You and I are one. Your thoughts, of course, I know. Kai. Euphemia's eyes gradually became moist. She didn't expect Ray Minkai to understand her like this. The Britannia Empire's prosperity is due to the 98th Emperor, Charles D.I. Britannia's strong and powerful leadership and wise policy guidance. Ray Minkai recited the reason for the Britannia Empire's prosperity from the Empire's textbooks, and continued, but in reality, the Britannia Empire is discriminated against, an extremely oppressive policy suppression and neglect, causing many people to hate the Britannia Empire. If this continues, the Britannia Empire will be destroyed. Euphemia continued Ray Minkai's words. Moreover, her voice was cold and serious. No, the Empire's destruction has already begun. UFFI. Ray Minkai shook his head and said the truth. Yes, because someone has already rebelled. My royal brother, Lucio VI Britannia. Chapter 106. Kai, aren't you surprised? When she mentioned the official record of the 11th prince's death, her brother Lucio VI Britannia, Ray Minkai's expression was calm, as if he already knew about this matter. It's Zero, right? His Royal Highness the 11th Prince, Lucio VI Britannia. Ray Minkai's next sentence scared Euphemia. She originally thought that she was the only one who knew the secret that Zero was Lucio. She didn't expect Ray Minkai to actually know. But Euphemia didn't know that Ray Minkai himself was a transmigrator who had already experienced 2 transmigrations. UFFI. Do you still remember that I established Department Q under Her Royal Highness Cornelia's instructions? Ray Minkai found another reason. Department Q? Could it be that you found out? Euphemia remembered that Department Q was the department directly under Cornelia. If Department Q found out, then it meant that Cornelia would know the truth. No, it was my own guess. Veretta knew. Do you still remember? She once lost her memory in Shinjuku, but she remembered that before she lost her memory, she once saw a youth wearing an Ashford Academy uniform. With this as the basis, coupled with other miscellaneous evidence, we came to a conclusion that the other party is very likely to be hiding in Ashford Academy and has a deep hatred for the Britannia Empire. No, it should be the royal family. Ray Minkai's words made Euphemia gradually feel a trace of apprehension. Ray Minkai stretched out his hand and gently patted Euphemia's hands on her thighs, then continued. In Japan, which is District 11, people who hate the Britannia Empire are everywhere, but there are only 2 people who have a deep hatred for the royal family. They're the royal siblings who were rumored to have died in the war. Moreover, UFFI, you just said his identity, didn't you? I see. I thought that Department Q had already told Royal Sister the truth. Euphemia seemed to heave a sigh of relief. Ray Minkai shook his head. Euphemia still valued relationships. This was especially true when it came to Lucio and his sister, who were her closest friends back then. Otherwise, she wouldn't have set up a special zone later on in an attempt to free the siblings. Unfortunately, everything went down the drain when Gius went berserk, and now, the Euphemia who created the special zone no longer existed. The one who was sitting in front of Ray Minkai was only the queen of another world who was implicated by the eruption of the abyss and came to a new world. Euphemia, if you have made a decision, then please tell me. I will do what you want to do for you. Under the moonlight, Ray Minkai reached out and hugged Euphemia in his arms. His voice softly sounded in her ear. Kai, I want to change the current situation of the Britannia Empire. Euphemia felt Ray Minkai's body temperature and softly said what she had seen and heard during this period of time. Before I left my home world, I never thought that the universe was so colorful. Whether it was the civilizations and races scattered in various dimensions of the universe, or the dazzling, exotic scenery, all these beautiful and magical civilizations can coexist so harmoniously. This kind of miracle is something that the Britannia Empire can't do. With that, Euphemia raised her head from Ray Minkai's arms, looked into Ray Minkai's eyes, and said, Kai, do you know? This kind of miracle that only exists in myths is something that the Britannia Empire can't do, and also can't imagine. The universe is so vast and so beautiful. But the Britannia Empire and His Majesty the Emperor are so narrow-minded. They only know how to conquer and rule. They use a strong hand to rule and suppress everything. When I saw this magical world with my own eyes, I knew that the Britannia Empire will eventually perish, just like those nameless civilizations that are displayed in the Land of Stars. The Land of Stars, you've been there. Rei Minkai's heart tightened. Rei Minkai, who had personally been to the Land of Stars under the leadership of Himimi, knew how terrifying and despairing it was. Especially those civilizations that could leave their names and traces behind, they were definitely more powerful than the current Britannia Empire. Merida took me there. I don't want the Britannia Empire to perish. Kai, what should I do? At the mention of the Land of Stars, Euphemia's entire body began to tremble. The extinction of civilizations, the extinction of races. For any civilization with a normal mind, this kind of ending was undoubtedly a fear that was engraved in the depths of their genes. Even if it was a civilization that didn't fear death, they would still be afraid that their existence would silently perish overnight. Rei Minkai gradually hugged Euphemia tightly, softly whispering in Euphemia's ear, "Become the Empress, my lovely highness." Empress? Euphemia stared blankly. This was a thought that she once knew. It was just a fleeting thought, but it couldn't be taken seriously. The 98th Emperor of the Britannia Empire, Charles di Britannia, had accumulated a deep authority over everyone in the empire. Apart from Lu Lucio, only the second prince, Hugh Nazir, was secretly digging at the emperor's foundation, and other people didn't even dare to think about it. Yes, UFFI, you've seen this colorful universe. You've also seen the truth of this universe. You also know the dangers hidden in the depths of the universe. You also understand the danger of the extinction of billions of civilizations. Under these circumstances, perhaps there's no one more suitable than you to become the Empress of the Britannia Empire. Rei Minkai's gaze was deep, sonorous, and powerful as he spoke. Empress? Euphemia didn't resist this suggestion, but the idea that Euphemia had previously killed quietly revived again. No, the current me isn't enough to become the Empress. Kai, you and I are one, right? Yes, you and I are one. Then help me. No matter what happens in the future, I hope you can protect me by my side. Yes, my lovely highness. The night quietly left, and the day came once again. Rei Minkai didn't sleep because of last night's late-night conversation with Euphemia. Instead, he felt 100 times more energetic. Good morning, Kai. Seeing Rei Minkai coming down from the second floor, Euphemia, surrounded by Harrow and the others, greeted him with a smile. Good morning. UFFI, where are you going? After Rei Minkai sized up Euphemia's attire, he casually asked, I'm going to the government office. Merida has applied for a place for me to visit. Euphemia raised her right hand, revealing the phoenix symbol tied on her wrist. This is the permit to go to the government office in the City of Stars. Seeing the unswerving brilliance in Euphemia's eyes, Rei Minkai nodded his head. He raised his hand to smooth out Euphemia's hair and said softly, UFFI, let's do our best. As long as I become an inspector, perhaps your idea will be realized faster. Yes, let's do our best. Harrow, let's go. Merida is waiting for us outside. In the midst of the Harrow's shouts, Euphemia quickly walked out of the house. It seems that your princess has made up her mind, Kai. Still wearing an apron, Cinnamon stood at the door of the living room and said faintly, Yes, UFFI has made up her mind. I can't be lazy anymore. Inspectors can apply for a designated world as their logistics world. If you really want your princess to become an empress, then you have to work hard. Cinnamon stepped forward and patted Rei Minkai's shoulder and mischievously winked at Rei Minkai. They heard it. Rei Minkai's face froze. Don't misunderstand. We don't have the bad habit of eavesdropping. It's just that recently, Merida discovered that the place UFFI chose to visit was unusual, so she made such a guess. As a result, looking at your face, it means that we have guessed correctly. Cinnamon saw Rei Minkai's stiff face and explained. To be honest, for those who have seen the truth of the universe and are committed to changing their homeworld, the administration has always been supportive, especially for the preparatory team members who are about to become official inspectors. Is it to resist the invasion of the abyss? Ray Minkai raised his doubts. You're right to think so. We need strength. Simon took off her apron, waved it around, and said while folding it, the abyss is too powerful. No matter how much lost land we have recovered and how many civilizations we have saved in the past 10 years, our living space still can't expand much. Is that so? Then, what can you do to help us? After you pass this training mission and become an official inspector of the administration, someone will naturally tell you. Kai, now you just need to focus on preparing for the Steel Pull a Battle tournament. After that, Simon left the house. The abyss. Ray Minkai asked himself. This terrible thing for Ray Minkai could be said to have run through his entire life. Whether it was in the Zayed's world or the Lu Lucio world, this thing was like a gangrene attached to the bone, entangling Ray Minkai and not letting go. Even in this peaceful steel polo world, others unintentionally discussed its existence, making Ray Minkai feel a kind of speechless pressure at all times. Moreover, in the depths of this mansion, White Cat State Zero, which should be able to answer more questions for Ray Minkai, fell into a deep sleep due to the lack of energy. Judging from its reaction, this White Cat State Zero was not a metal creature like the long-fanged Lion State Zero. Instead, it was more like a lazy house cat. Don't think about it. Let's finish the steel pull-up first. This is what I have to do now. Chapter 107. Time passed quickly. Finally, it was the day of the regional tournament. In order to welcome this long-awaited match, Euphemia purposely declined all visits and stood beside Ray Minkai to welcome the arrival of this moment with him. UFFI, let's go in. Ray Minkai stood in front of the entrance of the regional tournament's venue and looked at the crowds of 3 to 5 people around him as he spoke softly. Okay, let's go. Kai. Euphemia walked gracefully and followed behind Ray Minkai. Her beautiful appearance made others envious. Originally, Sinman and Merida had agreed to participate in this competition together with Ray Minkai and Euphemia. However, before they left, Sinman and Merida seemed to have received an urgent mission. Their expressions suddenly became serious. After hurriedly giving instructions, they let Ray Minkai and Euphemia participate in the competition by themselves. The two, who were fully focused on the competition, didn't care too much about what mission Sinman and Merida had to leave in a hurry. Instead, the moment they entered the venue through the contestants' special passage, they were shocked by the packed audience. So many people. Euphemia, no. Even Ray Minkai, who was familiar with the plot, didn't expect that the real steel pull-a battle would be so popular. Even if it was only the preliminaries of the regional tournament, the packed audience was enough to prove how popular the steel pull-a battle was in this world. UFFI, are you scared? Ray Minkai took a step forward and stood in the middle of the arena. He extended his right hand toward Euphemia. Euphemia shook her head, indicating that she wasn't scared at all. That was true. As the Empire's third princess, the occasions she faced were always more popular than this. As long as there was a slightly timid member of the royal family, they wouldn't be able to stand on the world stage. Kai, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. As the two of them walked hand in hand towards the center of the arena where the 4 huge steel pull-up battle platforms were placed, a confident and charismatic young man blocked their way. Seeing the young man's appearance, Ray Minkai chuckled. What, feeling lonely? No one can make you burn. Yes, the mechs built by the contestants here were all pretty good. However, they don't have the strength to make me burn. Tatsuya Yuki shook his head, not bothering to hide his disappointment. Then he saw Euphemia holding hands with Ray Minkai. Oh, Kai, could it be that the reason you disappeared for a few days was to pursue this beautiful lady? You've really disappointed me. Looking at Tatsuya Yuki's obvious expression of disappointment, Ray Minkai realized that this guy must have misunderstood something. Yuesheng, this is my partner, Euphemia Six Britannia. Hello, I am Euphemia Six Britannia. I am Kai's partner. Euphemia lightly let go of Ray Minkai's hand and gracefully performed a salute to Tatsuya Yuki. Euphemia's noble elegance made Tatsuya Yuki have the misconception that the girl in front of him was an empire's princess. And Tatsuya Yuki, who hurriedly denied this misconception, did not know that Euphemia was indeed an empire's princess. Hello, I am Tatsuya Yuki. It seems that I misunderstood. I am very sorry. Tatsuya Yuki placed his right hand on his chest and saluted to Euphemia. Then, he continued to look at Ray Minkai and said, Kai, what round is your name? 16. My name is the 4th round. It seems that I, Makoto Ito, and you won't meet in the preliminary round. Tatsuya Yuki revealed a trace of a smile. After all, no one wanted to meet a strong opponent on the first stage. Although that way, they could quickly engage in an unrestrained battle with a strong opponent, but as far as the stage was concerned, it was still too small. Makoto Ito? What round is his name? His name is on the 7th round. You guys can watch from his side first. How about it? Tatsuya Yuki gave a suggestion. Ray Minkai moved his gaze and looked at the serious or nervous expression of the surrounding contestants, then nodded his head. Then, I will see you later. Tatsuya Yuki waved his hand and turned to step onto the stage that was about to begin. He is the strong opponent you mentioned before? Euphemia withdrew her gaze and looked at Ray Minkai suspiciously. Right now, he probably isn't, but later on in this match, he will be. Right now, Tatsuya Yuki is just a young man who loves steel pull battles. Ray Minkai said something that Euphemia didn't understand at all. Then, he pulled Euphemia to the side and waited for their time to come. At this time, outside the venue, Sinmin and Merida were sitting in a car parked on the side of the road, looking at the venue where the preliminary round of the regional tournament was being held with a serious expression. Has it started? Merida took out her personal terminal and transferred the signal to the live broadcast of the steel pull battles. Kai's order of appearance is? Sinmin withdrew her gaze and asked. It's the 16th round. There's still time. Should we go in? Merida asked back. No, we won't go back first. We still need to keep an eye on this side. Sinmin curled her lips and looked unhappy. If it weren't for the need to stabilize the development of this world, how could there be room for the bastard who calls himself C? Originally, we planned to let C take on a position similar to the main AI of the fortress, but we didn't expect them to try to get close to us. Merida shook her head and pressed a few buttons on the projection channel released by her personal terminal. Then, she looked at the steel pulla models displayed on the screen in silence. In fact, this is inevitable. Every year, in the steel pulla competition, there will be a large group of rich people waving 100 million yuan around. Over time, even a pig will wonder where the leeks that grow every year came from. With that said, Sinmin sighed. I didn't expect that in this peaceful world, there would be such annoying things. Merida, can you request for some Yellow Sentinels to come over? How is that possible? Yellow Sentinels don't exist for these trivial matters. They all have important space-time investigation missions. Merida angrily refuted Sinmin's suggestion. Yeah, clearly, we have high-level technology, but we can only use such an inefficient method. It's really frustrating. Sinmin showed a very unhappy expression. They're here. Suddenly, Merida put away her personal terminal and looked at the other side of the venue, the more remote corner. Under the gaze of Merida and Sinmin, a tall man wearing a black hat, a black coat, and sunglasses slowly walked into the corner with a suitcase in his hand and quietly waited there. In less than a minute, another figure appeared. It's him? Who would have thought that the appearance of this figure would surprise Shinmin? Dad, you know him? It's the preparatory team led by Brigadier General Lars. Could it be that he was the one who leaked the information about us? Let's take a look first. After the man in black finished the transaction, he planned to go around the venue and leave along another more remote path. However, Sinman, who saw the opportunity, ordered the people lying in ambush to capture him. "Captain, this guy is too cowardly. He confessed in an instant." Sinman and Merida didn't have to wait long before the results of the interrogation came out. However, with the fresh interrogation report in hand, Sinman felt that her people seemed to be making a mountain out of a molehill. Troublesome. It turns out that those seas didn't discover our existence, but some idiot was showing off that he was a tycoon and accidentally let it slip. So, in addition to operating the steel Pulla model black market, these seas are also secretly collecting information about us. Merida used her personal terminal to look at the interrogation video and nodded. "It's very possible, but for now, we can at least request for some support." Merida sent a request for support to the administration. "We can't let those seas spread our existence everywhere." "Understood. But what about the preparatory team members who let it slip? Will they be eliminated?" Merida raised a new question. "About this, I have a plan. I believe Kai will be very happy when he knows." Sinman rubbed her chin, opened her personal terminal, and began to organize her thoughts. She sent an urgent document to the director of the administration's mailbox. "Okay, as long as this plan is approved, then Kai won't need to go through the regional competition and can directly advance to the world competition." Looking at her father's serious expression, Maritan couldn't help but laugh. "Aren't you opening the back door for Kai? Is that so? If we defeat Makoto Ito and the others in the preliminaries, I'm afraid even Izzy-I won't be satisfied. I'm just letting Kai complete the mission perfectly." Shinman patted his chest, not bothering to hide his smugness. That look of his made Maritan burst into laughter. Beep beep. Not long after, an email from the director of the administration was sent to Simmons' personal terminal. Simon opened it, and her eyes immediately lit up. "Merida, my proposal has been approved. It seems that the director also knows something about the situation here." "Oh, is that so? Look, the director mentioned the preparatory team members who let it slip in this paragraph and asked them to do their best to fight. After burning their last bit of value, they will be sent back to their world through memory manipulation." "They still need to perform memory manipulation?" It seems that the director is already angry. Chapter 108. Ray Minkai had no idea what was happening outside the stadium. The only thing he and Euphemia knew was that after experiencing the battles between Tatsuya Yuki, Makoto Ito, and Lingshire, it was finally their turn. Their opponents, on the other hand, were people that Lei Minkai had met once before. It was the preparatory team member that had fought with Tatsuya Yuki before. Ray Minkai immediately remembered him when he saw the pattern on his face that was still fresh in his memory. However, Ray Minkai still did not know his name. He only remembered that this person did not seem to know how to make steel Pulla models. Instead, he chose to squander the huge sum of 100 million to buy steel Pulla models from those CS. When the preparatory team members saw Ray Minkai and Euphemia, he pondered and said, You shouldn't be from this world, right?" Ray Minkai shook his head and raised his left hand to reveal a watch that was no different from the one worn by the preparatory team member, indicating his identity. "Sure enough, you're really unlucky. You just entered the preliminaries, and you already met your own people. I'm afraid your training mission has failed." The preparatory team member seemed to be very confident. He did not understand Ray Minkai's strength or the situation of his exclusive mech, but he still dared to say that Ray Minkai would definitely lose. "Oh, why would you say that? I remember that you were defeated by Tatsuya Yuki before. You can't even make your own steel Pulla models. How can you say that I will definitely lose?" Ray Minkai did not back down and directly retorted, "Hey, let's not beat around the bush. Looking at you, I'm afraid you're like these natives, spending all your effort to make these toys. What a waste of that huge sum of money. You should know that our administration is a giant that controls countless resources. It's just a steel Pulla model. Why do you have to make it yourself? It's broken. Just buy another one. It won't cost much anyway." The preparatory team member said, "What he? No, It should be what most of the preparatory team members were thinking. At the same time, he raised the briefcase in his hand and placed it on the steel pull-up battle platform. He looked at Ray Minkai provocatively. I'll show you. Show me the power of money. Ka. The preparatory team member opened the briefcase. At that moment, a golden light shone from the briefcase's opening and shone into Ray Minkai's eyes. Ray Minkai frowned slightly. Following that, the reserve member opened the suitcase in one breath and took out a golden steel pull-up model with a pair of steel wings on its back and a horn on its head. The model was painted in gold from head to toe. Its entire body and limbs were covered in a faint blue glow. He then displayed it in front of Ray Minkai. In the next second, the smugness on the reserve team member's face turned into arrogance. Look, look, look. This is the power of monies. RX-0 model number 3, Pioneer Phoenix Gao. Duh. You're really unlucky. You just entered the preliminaries, and you've already met a strong opponent like me. Pioneer Phoenix Gao. Duh. For some reason, Ray Minkai suddenly thought of the Fire Phoenix Gao that he saw in the Ministry of Justice's laboratory. According to the Ministry of Justice's Hui, the Fire Phoenix was born from the Phoenix Gao. So what? I could buy the steel pull-up model, but what about your skills? Ray Minkai's face was still calm. He was not affected by the preparatory team members' words. TSK, I was thinking that since we're both preparatory team members, I'll let you lose nicely. Now, I'll torture you to my heart's content. I'll let you see the power of the legendary Pioneer Phoenix Gao. Looking at Ray Minkai's unmoved expression, the originally arrogant preparatory team member suddenly became angry. UFFI, it's starting. Ray Minkai reminded her. Understood. Please set up the GP base. Start spreading Palevsky particles. Field 1, Universe. As the surface of the moon was created, the steel pull-up combat system was ready. The only thing left was for both sides to put in their own personal mecha. Hey, wait and see. I, Sofrono Amoreso, am destined to be a pioneer. You're just a small stone on my path to becoming a pioneer. The preparatory team member pointed at Ray Minkai and shouted. Then he placed the steel pull-up model that he called Pioneer Phoenix Gauda in the attacking position. Pioneer Phoenix? Oof. I don't know who the pioneers are. But with your personality, you're still 108,000 years too early to become a pioneer. After Ray Minkai retorted, he placed Pirate Gauda X1 and Steel Eagle in the attacking position. Ray Minkai, Pirate Gauda X1, Steel Eagle, attack. Sofrono Amoreso, Pioneer Phoenix Gauda, attack. The moment the battle between Ray Minkai, Euphemia, and Sofrono Amoreso began, Merida and Sinman pushed open the door and walked into the audience. However, the moment Merida and Sinman saw the steel pull-up model used by the preparatory team member named Sofrono Amoreso, an icy cold aura suddenly erupted from Merida's body and quickly spread to the surroundings. The surrounding audience subconsciously avoided this area and hid further away. Merida, calm down. It's just a steel pull-up model. Sinman secretly sighed and helplessly patted her head. Spending money recklessly and blabbering was enough. He was not afraid of death and touched the taboo of the Pulu. What was worse was that Merida, who respected the pioneers the most among the Pulu, saw it. This time, it was not easy to clean up. However, the next moment, the icy cold aura suddenly retracted and Merida revealed a charming smile. Merida, calm down. Sinman's heart jumped and hurriedly shouted, Damn it. Father, don't worry. I'm very calm, Merida said very gently and took out her personal terminal. Merida made a few gestures on it and unexpectedly connected to Ray Minkai's steel pull-up battle system. Kai, listen, now I want you to do something. That is to use the Pirate Gao X1's strongest power to completely destroy the steel pull-up model that insulted the pioneers. The puzzled Ray Minkai and Euphemia looked at each other. The two of them did not know why Merida suddenly appeared on the screen in front of them and did not know why there was such a request. However, it did not prevent them from completing Merida's mission. because this request was undoubtedly simple for them. UFFI, coming. After the pirate, Gauda X1 raised his gun and fired a series of shots to force the Pioneer Phoenix away. The Steel Eagle behind him extended the two beam cannons on his shoulder and fired at the Pioneer Phoenix. Naive, this attack is just an itch. Although the Pioneer Phoenix could not completely clone the original I-Force field, it could easily block the beam cannons of the Steel Eagle. Boom! Thick smoke billowed. It blocked the vision of the Pioneer Phoenix. But Sofrono Amoreso was not in a hurry. He had supreme confidence in the Pioneer Phoenix that he had spent a lot of money to obtain. He was not afraid of any challenge. Now, what he wanted to do was to rely on the Pioneer Phoenix to win the Steel Polo World Competition and become an inspector of the authority. Then, he would skyrocket and become a pioneer of the new generation. Wow! All of a sudden, the entire audience cried out in surprise. What? What happened? Listening to the audience's exclamation, Sofrono Amoreso could not help but panic. He quickly controlled the Pioneer Phoenix to rush out of the thick smoke and looked at the original position of the pirate Gauda X1. In that instant, a huge sword of light that seemed to pierce through the sky wantonly emitted its dazzling and fatal brilliance. And under this earth-shattering brilliance, the pirate Gauda X1 was holding the huge sword of light with both hands. At this time, its arms were covered by the large armed components transformed by the Steel Eagle. Waves of particle energy extended upward along the established route and swarmed into the sword of light that almost pierced through the sky. How is this possible? It's just a model. How can it achieve the exact same attack as the Pioneer Phoenix Gauda? Impossible. Impossible. Sofrono Amoreso, who was frightened by the amazing scene in front of him, could not believe what he saw. In the Battle of Steel Polo, there's only unimaginable. Nothing is impossible. You, who only rely on money to stack Steel Polo models, can't understand the truth of Steel Polo battle. Ray Minkai's ethereal voice came from all directions and kept ringing in Sofrono Amoreso's ears. Now, I'll return the words you said before to you. Seeing that we're both preparatory team members, I'll let you lose a little more gracefully. Saint Slaying Sword, break for me. No. My Pioneer Phoenix. My Pioneer. Pirate Gauda X1 suddenly waved the huge sword of light in his hands. The blazing particle torrent instantly chopped Pioneer Phoenix into pieces. Boom. The battle is over. Ray Minkai wins. Following the explosion of Pioneer Phoenix into pieces, the preliminaries also ushered in the end. However, two black-clothed people expressionlessly walked out from the side door. After bowing to Ray Minkai and Euphemia, they picked up Sofrono Amoreso and dragged him out of the arena. Clap, clap, clap. Applause sounded. Amazing. Amazing. Is this the completed version of your Pirate Gauda X1? That huge sword of light is called Saint Slaying Sword? Tatsuya Yuki, who was standing at the side watching the battle, applauded while walking in front of Ray Minkai. Looking at the Pirate Gauda X1 and Steel Eagle in his hands, he sighed sincerely. Yes, this is my Pirate Gauda. Chapter 109. Plop. A small rock was kicked high into the air, drawing an arc in the air and breaking the calm water surface. Looking at the ripples that continued to spread outwards, Lingshur turned around and leaned back against the railing. He held his head with both hands, and his face had a trace of unhappiness. TSK, what are you so proud of? Isn't it just a super big sword? Lingshur, why did you have a conflict with Guy? Makoto Ito, who was standing next to Lingshur, was very puzzled. From the moment Lingshur and Ray Minkai met, Lingshur seemed to be targeting Ray Minkai all the time. Although Ray Minkai didn't seem to care, he gave people the feeling that he was targeting Lingshur. Who would have a conflict with that guy? Lingshur gritted his teeth and said bitterly, "It's just money. When I went to special training with Uncle Lar, I was only using the mech he bought." That's the reason? Makoto Ito was stunned and subconsciously said, Then you should thank him. Why are you still angry with him? No. Ling Shi snorted and crossed his arms. His face suddenly showed a trace of seriousness. I just smelled the same scent as me from that guy's body. Smell. Makoto Ito, who didn't understand what Ling Shi was talking about, leaned forward and sniffed. There's no smell? Chung, you idiot. Ling Shi raised his eyebrows and shook Makoto Ito's shoulders. Chung, the smell I'm talking about isn't that. Instead, that fellow should have come here from another world, just like me. Another world? Another world? Iji Chung blinked and burst into laughter. He couldn't help but hold his stomach. Ha ha! Ling Shi, are you still joking? Okay, I believe you. Since it's not a big problem, next time you'll have to thank him properly. After all, the steel pull model you used during the special training should be broken, right? Oh, Makoto Ito saw Ling Shi's frozen expression and immediately understood. When he saw Ling Shi's fingers wrapped in bandages, Makoto Ito knew that Ling Shi must have gone through a period of hard training. All of a sudden, the Ling Division's expression turned strange. Moreover, his eyes were looking at Makoto Ito's body. He looked at Makoto Ito in confusion. Ling Shi? How? Did I do something wrong? Iji Chung took a step back and looked at Ling Si in confusion. Chung! Ling Si yelled out Iji Cheng's name. Yes, I'm here. Please say it. When he heard Ling Shi's strange voice and expression, Makoto Ito couldn't help but wonder if Ling Shi was provoked by something. Chung, I want that big sword. I want to use that big sword. Ling Shi gestured while looking at Makoto Ito with bright eyes. He seemed to be waiting for the answer he wanted from him. Sword? What sword? Makoto Ito asked subconsciously. He immediately understood Ling Shi's meaning. No, I can't do it. The Pirate Gouda X1 Saint Slaying Sword is not something I can do now. Moreover, the assault on Gouda doesn't have that kind of armor plan. Ling Shi didn't think that Makoto Ito would reject him so directly. This made him very surprised. One must know that when they saw the Pirate Gouda X1 raise the Saint Slaying Sword with their own eyes, everyone's blood would boil. They would have a strong desire to shout the Saint Slaying Sword's name with Rei Minkai. Chung, no, I also want that kind of attack effect, but I can't do it now. Makoto Ito showed a hint of wavering, but he killed it in the next second. Makoto Ito shook his head. He decided to tell Ling Shi that the Saint Slaying Sword was really not suitable for the assault on Gao de Ling Shi. Although the Saint Slaying Sword's attack power is amazing, in my opinion, it still has two shortcomings. Makoto Ito stretched out 2 fingers and gestured while explaining to Ling Shi why he insisted on rejecting the Saint Slaying Sword. First, before using the Saint Slaying Sword, the Pirate Gouda X1 must combine with a bird-shaped flying backpack called the Steel Eagle. In the process of combining, it may be attacked and cause the combination to fail. Makoto Ito bent his middle finger and continued. Second, the Saint Slaying Sword's charging time is too long. The amount of particles released with that kind of huge force can't be completed in an instant. In the previous battle, I discovered that before the Steel Eagle and the Pirate Gouda X1 combine, it will inevitably perform a round of disruptive attacks on the enemy, so that the enemy can't interfere with the combination process and the Saint Slaying Sword's charging power. Listening to Makoto Ito's detailed analysis, Ling Shi curled his lips indifferently. When that guy can do it, I could do it too. Before the combination, just force the enemy away. It's not that simple. Looking at the indifferent Ling Shi, Makoto Ito rarely loudly refuted Ling Shi's words. The opponents we're going to face next aren't the ones who appeared in the regional tournament, but the elite aces from all over the world. In front of those elite aces, using such a weak move is undoubtedly courting death. Ling Shi was shocked by Makoto Ito's reaction, but still stubbornly refuted. But didn't that guy use it too? That's because Guy has his own plans. When he went to my shop, he didn't just buy the Pirate Gao de Mecha. He bought several Mecha. Obviously, he has made many preparations for the World Tournament. Makoto Ito's refutation made Ling Shi speechless. In the end, he said indignantly, in other words, that guy is misleading others now. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. Makoto Ito didn't think of Lingshire at all. In his opinion, Rei Minkai wouldn't do something like that. However, Lingshire had another thought. That sly, two-faced bastard will definitely think of it that way. Rubbing his chin, Lingshire became more and more certain that his thoughts were correct. Suddenly, he grabbed Makoto Ito's shoulder and said sneakily, "Hey, Chung, you should know what kind of mecha that guy bought, right? Why don't you take this opportunity and try to guess what kind of mecha that guy will use in the later rounds, and then target it? Is that okay?" Makoto Ito frowned and pushed Lingshire away. He said somewhat angrily, "How can I do that?" Before the steel pulla fighter took out the steel pulla model he made, no one would think of how he would make the steel pulla model. How am I supposed to guess? Makoto Ito's reaction made Lingshire speechless again. Lingshire himself only had a high talent in steel pulla battles, but he didn't know anything about making steel pulla models. Since his partner, Makoto Ito, said that it was impossible, Lingshire could only give up. Just that, "Hey Chung, can you make a saint slaying sword for me? I think that would be super cool." How is that possible? Under the setting sun, this kind of question and answer was repeated until the two returned to Makoto Ito's family's model shop. Only then did it gradually stop. On the other side, Tatsuya Yuki, who was still alone in the stadium after the competition ended, looked at the steel pulla battle platform used by Rei Minkai. In his mind, the moment when Pirate Gouda X1 and the Steel Eagle combined and raised the Saint Slaying Sword, that earth-shattering particle torrent, that super beam sword that almost broke through the space limit created by the steel pulla battle system, kept replaying. Can't forget it. Can't forget it. No matter who saw that scene, they would never forget the elegance of that sword. How can it achieve such a level of attack? No matter how Tatsuya Yuki hypothesized and calculated, it seemed that he was unable to reproduce Pirate Gouda X1's shocking sword with the technology he currently mastered. However, for some reason, his hands began to tremble. This is... Tatsuya Yuki clenched his fists tightly, feeling the tremors that emerged from the depths of his heart from the inside of his body. Burn, burn, burn. Tatsuya Yuki clenched his fists tightly. This was what he had been dreaming of. After witnessing Pirate Gouda X1's shocking sword, he, Tatsuya Yuki, finally found the power that could make him burn. Even if his superb steel pulla battle system told him that although Pirate Gouda X1 sword could be said to be earth-shattering and stunning, as long as he dealt with it in a targeted manner, Rei Minkai and Pirate Gouda X1 would definitely not be able to use this sword in front of him. But, as a steel pulla fighter, Tatsuya Yuki was still burning. He was looking forward to being able to go all out against Rei Minkai in the later matches. Waiting for you. I'm waiting for you on this stage. Kai. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Please come in. Rei Minkai put down the model in his hand and turned around to look at the door. It's me, Sinman. It turned out that the person who knocked on the door was Sinman. It was just that he didn't know why he was looking for Rei Minkai at this time. According to the usual schedule, Sinman should still be in the kitchen, cooking dinner for everyone. Fortunately, I arrived in time for today's match. Very good. That sword was indeed very stunning. Simon seemed to have some difficulties. He rambled on for a while and took out a piece of paper from his chest. Kai, take this document and read it. After reading it, give me an answer. Rei Minkai took the piece of paper in confusion. After quickly reading it from top to bottom, he frowned deeply. Sinman, what does this mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just to let you and Makoto Ito smoothly enter the world competition. Of course, Tatsuya Yuki is the same. According to the current competition schedule, the three of you will definitely compete in the regional competition. The winner will advance to the world competition, and the loser will go home. Simon looked into Rei Minkai's eyes and asked word by word. Then your answer is? Rei Minkai pondered for a moment, raised his head, and said solemnly, Okay, I agree. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.